Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live broadcast here. My name is Eric Wright. I'm going to be part of the presenting team. We are super happy because we've got AWS reInvent is going on. We are in the official day one keynote. We've got, for folks that are watching online, of course, you can probably co-stream. The keynote's happening right now. We've got Adam giving what will be inevitably an onslaught of incredible announcements. But the fun part about this is we've got a fantastic, or literally a room full of people who are able to give us really good ideas on what we can do. So we are hosting right here in the suite at Vidara live in Las Vegas. If you do want to come and join us, swing on over. We've got room for more. We always love getting new folks together because it's a rare treat where we can be in person again. And with that, let's jump in and we'll intro the rest of the crew here. So I'm here, of course, co-presenting with my good friend John. John, let's have you do the intro for yourself so I don't just butcher your website.
Oh, dude. First of all, high five.
That's right.
To the 50-year-old. Yes, that's right. Happy birthday right here, everybody. Right. He is 5.0 version. Yes, right here. All right, so everybody, John Myer, Myer Media, content creator. You know what? Today we are bringing you, he did say day one of like reInvent, but this is like day 4 for us already. We've been hustling and bustling, live streaming yesterday, bringing you the latest. Adam Soliski is doing his keynote right now. We're going to bring you some of the up-to-date information. There were so many releases that happened last night. We're going to try to capture them, but let's talk about a couple of things. Eric, how you feeling for today, man? We are ready to roll.
Good, yeah. I mean, we've got an action-packed set of things that are going on. We're going to have some folks who are sponsors and supporters of the event that we're hosting here in Las Vegas. I can't say enough about how amazing it is. I'll bring it up here just because I do want to tell people, if you, of course, do want to check in on this, you can shoot on over, go to gtmdelta.com/live. Do check out the fine folks that support us. I'm gonna read it out because they do deserve a direct shout out. Our community presenting sponsors here for the big event are, of course, we've got Myer Media. So John,
you can always put me last,
John
man.
And his team.
But thanks.
My team at GTM Delta. We are happy to be able to bring this event, bring our team here, and I cannot do this without the people that support us, including Cohesity, who we were really happy. We did a great recording last night. We're going to have a panel that's going to be coming out this week. Talked a lot about data protection, the concerns around data security, really, really good insights, and just fun, great folks that were able to join us. We had Jed and Vic. So we'll be publishing that on the channels as well. Do keep your eyes on it. And of course, again, just go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. All of the content is there. And of course, VMUG. So the VMware user group, I've been a long time member of the VMware user group community. And what I enjoy about this is that we've seen a big transition in how the practitioner audience and what we do as practitioners is shifting. We obviously saw the introduction of cloud and cloud native technologies, but at the same time, the VMware general technology community has really done good at adapting and helping to create educational opportunities, ways in which peers can meet, learn together, and we're really honored that a lot of folks are going to join us in the suite as well, and we're going to be hosting a VIP event with the VMUG team, which will be happening tomorrow night. So if you are a member of VMUG, I imagine you may have an invite somewhere in your inbox if you are here in Las Vegas. And of course, we are hosting our own VIP event tonight here, which is going to be cool. So I'm very happy that we're going to.
So real quick, I want to jump in there and tell everybody how they can take a look and follow us along. Jump onto YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you want. We're not on Mastodon yet, but we're working on that one. Follow hashtag LV Reinvent 22. You can follow along for all the thing. If you've got questions, comments, drop them in the chat below. We want to hear from you. You got something going on? You want to join this awesome event? Yes, drop into our DMs. We'll bring you on. We've got a lot of information. I am monitoring and doing social media at the same time just because we want to get you the latest as possible and include you in on everything. And Eric, you want to continue with our sponsors?
Right on. Yeah. So we've got a lot of things that are going to be going on in town, and we're happy again. So our Our community supporting sponsors include the folks at Shift Group. So J.R. Butler and his team at Shift Group are going to be here in town. They've been fantastic supporters. If you're looking for building a true startup technology sales culture, you can head on over to shiftgroup.io. They're fantastic. They've been great to work with. We've got a couple of podcasts, I think, that I put one out on my channel already, and we're going to have a lot more content coming from them. PTP. So Gary and the whole team at PTP have been really
Gary,
cool.
Ethan, AJ, thank you so much. In fact, we're going to have them here. So Ethan and AJ will be joining us on the live stream, and we'll be talking about the latest events that are happening. And we have something that PTP was just part of. We're not going to spoil it now. We're going to let them share during the event.
And we had N2WS. So this was really cool, which I'm officially today years old that I learned N2WS stands for Not to Worry Software, which is actually that's the wittiest possible name you could get. So we had Ezra join us yesterday, and he's going to be coming back and joining us for some panels and jumping on. Mike, Ezra is a really fantastic human. We're super proud of working with him and the team. Bellefleur, we had Tia, who joined us yesterday. Dubuisson.
Hey, that was pretty good because what?
If I messed that up, I'd have to I'd have to give in my French card. If I couldn't say that, I'd be in real trouble. I should say Bellefleur Technologies. I could totally throw on my Québécois.
That was really good. You know what? Should have you
French,
cut that. I didn't. Oh man, I'm out. No, just kidding. But that was pretty good because
I'm not French. I'm French Canadian, which is like it's a whole different little.
Is that a
different? It's a whole weird thing. Yeah. It's a hybrid version. It's the worst of both worlds. So Bellefleur have been fantastic. They're doing really neat stuff around data. We talked a lot with Tia yesterday, so go back and check out the stream. We're going to be doing lots of clips and cuts, so you'll be able to get just the info that matters. We were super excited. She and the team are doing really amazing stuff. Ibex Labs also going to be joining us, and they've been great supporters.
Shortly, actually, he's on his way up. So Shri will be joining us here on the podcast shortly. Stay tuned for that. Got a lot of things going on. Ibex Labs, Labra, the complete OpSync integration. And I'm not doing a sell for them, but I love the product and how it handles from like your CRM into your APN system. Awesome stuff they're working on. More things we'll talk about, but let's get underway.
And Morpheus data. So Brad has been really good. So Brad Parks, he and I have been lucky enough to do work in the community together, and I've always kept in touch with Brad. He's just one of those people that you can trust in how he's really bringing integrity to tech marketing. So the Morpheus data team really doing a lot of fun stuff. And when we think about this multi-cloud automation, it is absolutely a no-brainer that if you're not looking at automation as part of your portfolio and your practice as a direct practitioner, as well as in your team. So it's good to take a look. Head on over to morpheusdata.com. Converge also fantastic. They're a great partner. They're doing I've actually done events with them in the past through previous work I was doing when I was with Turbonomic, and we really had a great time. I've always respected their super customer-focused, outcome-focused approach to stuff. So big shout out to Converge. RackN got to have Rob Hirschfeld, who's the CEO and co-founder of RackN. He was on for a few minutes yesterday. We had a little teaser of some of the stuff that he and the team are doing, but we'll dive in. What I love about working with Rob and the stuff that we share is we enjoy some really good, solid, strong opinions that are coming from real lived experience that are happening in the field. He and the team are doing some stuff with, it started off as just bare metal orchestration, but it really truly is multi-cloud orchestration and provisioning. LucidLink, cannot say enough about how great these folks have been.
So first of all, there are storage applications for media and accessing it in like literally near real time. Transferring mass amounts of data in their media files is actually perfect for our event. So I'd love to. I want to utilize their product so much more and able to get this video stuff over and share it across the world. So this is great.
Yeah, if you're a content creator, it's a fantastic offering. You should definitely check it out, because the idea of, especially if you've got a back-end production team and you've got people in different locations, it is literally like having a NAS across the world, and definitely something that you should take a look at. The CloudFix team, so Aria CloudFix joined us yesterday. We were happy to have Rahul, and we're going to have more folks. So of course, we've got Stephen Barr also going to join us a bit during this week. We met, he jumped on on the podcast yesterday, which was fun. So AWS
made easy, the car talk of AWS, and I know he's going to talk about dev spaces a lot more, but CloudFix, I love the solution and the product for dev spaces is something. Steven's been on my podcast. Very analytic and intelligent guy who really likes bringing you the latest and greatest of like AWS and analyzing what they just released. This event is probably great for him, just to kind of see what's going on and what's happening.
And then we move over. So Kitcaster, who I've been really happy to partner with. Kitcaster have been working with me on the Disco Posse podcast, and they've been providing me an incredible array of guests. They focus especially on not just doing podcast PR agency work. So they're basically they can bring your team and get you exposed to podcasts and really amplify your message. But on top of that, they've got a brand new offering that they do where they actually do messaging workshops, and they work with, especially with companies that are trying to find their feet or even that have been in market for a while, and you want help to understand how do you properly message towards the right personas, how do you make sure that you're coming across clear, that you're hitting the right target buyer, and that everything is matching up. So they do a really fantastic interactive workshop. We are super proud. And again, if you want to just, even at the very limited, just PR agency for podcasting, they've got an incredible bunch of podcasts that they can get you on. Absolutely worth it. And then we move down to Halo Radius. So Halo Radius, I can say I'm very happy to be presenting, with Halo Radius. I've been doing advisory with Halo Radius, and if you're looking for real engineers building fantastic platforms at an incredible level, so they focus on product creation and true product development. So if you're a startup, even if you're an enterprise, they really focus on bringing products to market fast, effective, and with high quality. So this is what's great. And then we've got Michael Levan. So Michael, if you haven't already checked, he is the NJ DevOps guy on Twitter, and you can go to michaellevan.net. Michael is somebody I've done co-podcast with.
We did that one. NJ guy, right? What was it?
The NJ DevOps guy.
The NJ DevOps guy. He's been over. We did a live stream with him talking about all good things DevOps, right?
We did. Yeah, I forget what our theme was.
What was our theme? We were just testing for this event, but it was a great theme and a great conversation.
It's the idea that DevOps is a human problem, not a technology problem. And Michael is a hands-on practitioner, and he creates content that is production-ready content that really, if you're looking at technical audiences and you want to help create content, it's funny. I rank now, since GTM Delta is in the business ourselves of creating technical marketing. What I've really found is that I've partnered up with Michael and we've worked together on some projects. Really, really cool. So it's a beautiful, large world, and there's room for all of us here. So
I had a chance to meet Michael at the New York Summit, the AWS New York Summit, and we just connected. I think we stayed there for like 1 hour of just chatting and discussing things and how we can get together. And it's one of those people where you have an instant connection with, and that you can build a rapport and do some awesome things. So huge shout out to Michael. If you're not following him, he releases so much content, Twitter, LinkedIn. Wow, Twitter's around. It is still around this morning, right?
It's so far.
All right, just checking.
It's so hard to tell. It's a game day decision every day.
Yeah. By the end of the day, you never know. I'm sure we'll be on Mastodon by the end of it. Or we keep saying that. You'll find us.
Yeah. The good thing about what we've got today. So again, we've got more folks who are joining. This is great. We're seeing the room begin to fill up. We're going to be hosting people all day long. We've got snacks, we've got coffee. We can make sure that we can help people to have a place to chill, hang out, and this is a great chance for us to figure out how can we be as good practitioners coming together as a group and introducing new faces. We really want to bring more people to the microphone and to the blog and vlogosphere. If we can think as a community, the best thing that we can do is raise up others. And this is really the focus of community. It's such an often overused term. And I know if you get stuck on, what does it mean to be in a technology community, it is about how do we engage with people where, as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. And with VMUG being a part of this, and we've got people like Michael who are driving really great practitioner-led content communities and what GTM Delta are doing with really, again, building content creators. And if, in fact, if you're a content creator and you're looking for an opportunity to create content, then do just hit me up. So you can drop me a DM on Twitter. I'm at Disco Posse, easy to find. And we are really, really looking to enhance and grow our creator community. So if you wanted to get started with content creation and you need a little help, then we do coaching, and it's a very interactive process about how we bring people into the content community world. So just very easy. All you got to do is head on over to gtmdelta.com, fill out the form, and we'll be good. And
I'm back.
We've got a lot of other things that are going on. In fact, since we'll give a shout out, we were lucky enough. We had a great chat yesterday with Corey Quinn. For folks that know Corey or don't know Corey, he's with the Duckbill Group, and it was cool because he was able to come over, loaded schedule, took the time to join us, and he's got a bunch of things going on. So if you want to go, if you're here in town, Corey does something called the Nature Walk.
Oh, Wednesday. You got to do this. I mean, I don't mean to jump in here. I've been part of this nature walk where he actually dresses appropriately, walking the expo floor, and off the cusp, he talks about all of the vendors and what they do in a nature way. And it generates so much conversation and so much stuff that's going on. I think it's fun. And it's something that, you know, you break up the technology and you break up the hectic week with something that has, it's not a session of learning, but it's a different perspective of what these technologies do.
That was the goal of our keynote group here, is that we want to talk about what's important to us as practitioners, as content creators, as architects, people that are building platforms. AWS has always focused on the builders, and you hear that it's been sort of pervasive in their language. And you know, right now we've got we're seeing a lot of stuff around data. I think that's probably going to be a pretty big focus today. We're going to see data-centric stuff around lots of announcements. Also, it was really cool that we talked yesterday with Ezra about, you know, what to expect, and also with Corey, you know, and he said we're probably going to expect a lot of kind of like 0.1 updates. We're not necessarily going to see this huge wash of releases of brand new platforms, but we're probably going to see a lot of really cool upgrades to existing products. And it's, I guess, in a sense, sort of the maturity level that's seeing, you know, in the AWS product space.
So right now, Adam is talking about the AWS analytics services that happen: Amazon Athena, Amazon EMR, Kinesis, Redshift, and he's going through a lot of the stuff that's happening and the updates. He's talking about the complete data sets that are available to you for these analytical platforms. Now, I'm going to go out on a whim and say that after he recaps this, something's being released.
Inevitably, it's
always think it's the add-on. We are now adding to this. I'm going to assume it's, I think, a service. I don't think it's maybe new and improved, because he's outlining all the services and some of the updates. He talked about Redshift, 5 times faster. He's talking about Athena, what's going on in analytics. So, and right now he's kind of gone over SageMaker. So I just really want to see what he's going to release next and talk about. I've been following the feed and what's new, because usually they drop the blog just at the same time that it's doing. So I am refreshing constantly.
We've really enjoyed that. The way that AWS does their releases is exciting as a product marketer. It blows up every possible, methods that's in the market. They tend to pre-announce a ton of stuff leading up to the event. So you already get a bit of a fire hose of new things that you're going to see. And Jeff Barr and the whole evangelism team and the developer advocacy team, they're working like crazy to get hands-on practitioner style blogs. But what we often find is there's sort of missing pieces, and that's why we love the partners working today. Speaking of partners, I know we got some folks who are going to join us shortly. So in a few minutes, we're going to take a quick sort of intro break. We're going to load up the microphones. We're going to start the official 4 microphone setup, or at least very least we're gonna have 3. We'll have some new faces join us. If you want to interact with us, again, super easy. You can drop us a DM. You can just use hashtag LVReinvent22 just in your mentions. We'll bring it up. And if you want to actually post a comment or reply to the stream that's happening today, it's on LinkedIn Live, it's on YouTube, it's on Twitter,
all of them.
We're streaming to all of the things. And if you just drop a comment, we'll actually see it coming up live in the chat, and we can bring that up.
So I was counting all the new releases that happened yesterday alone. Now, these are not new specific services in general. There are actually a new service. Well, we can talk about them in a little bit. Some enhancements to services, adds to new regions. I think there was over 30 just yesterday alone. And the day before, they dropped a couple more. So you can bet that we got 210
Sorry,
plus.
Nikola Tesla's on screen right now.
Oops, my bad.
You had me. Sorry, you had me at Nikola Tesla.
All right. Well, that ends the stream. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. He got all the. You know what? Let me take all this privacy screen so you.
This
can
is
have
a really
better, view of my.
I can imagine. I'm gonna sort of preview what I believe we're gonna see shortly. One of the biggest focuses that we've had as an industry is around what can we do around green technologies.
Yep.
How do we better optimize our power consumption? And it often gets lost in the weeds that people talk about greenwashing. What I really do appreciate is that the AWS team has been, laser hyper focused on this, and they've done a lot of work in sustainability. And it's a tough thing to do because sometimes there's a lot of also rans or people like, oh yeah, it's buying carbon credits has not proven necessarily to be a real true delivery of a solution. But what we're seeing, obviously, Amazon's data center footprint for the cloud, regions and all the availability zones, you can imagine. We can't know the numbers, of course, because that's
not privy to us.
That's kept very secret. But it's tough for them to be able to scale and yet be mindful of the impact on the earth.
Last year, they released a sustainability pillar, right, for the well-architected review. They're actually powering their data centers through their green technology and, kind of doing it more and more. AWS and Amazon have definitely doubled down on this effort and not greenwash. They are dedicated to this. They have launched startup partners who are dedicated to sustainability. I've done a number of podcasts, Margaret O'Toole, Anna Green joining us on there and talking about the sustainability around it. And it's part of their thing, even their leadership principle. Right. They're actually doubling down because of how big they are. They're valued and looked upon that if they start this, their partners are going to start this. Is going to trickle down. They are taking that first approach. Now, what you're seeing is they're literally talking about some of the sustainability options from one of the companies and how they can actually power. One of the things was, power in Las Vegas, which is actually very interesting because I can imagine what it takes just to power this strip.
Yeah, there's a lot of lights on this strip, and I'm gonna give a non-sponsored shout out to one of the most incredible people I know in the world, Missy Young. Missy is the CIO of Switch here in Las Vegas. And Missy has been somebody who I've always had an incredible respect for, and she's been just such a fantastic supporter of the tech community. They even she and her team have helped me to lead some data center tours of the Switch facilities, which is a lot of fun. And she's gone through a real incredible personal journey dealing with cancer over the last while, and luckily at this point is cancer free. And so that's just so happy. And I couldn't be more proud of what Misty and her team at Switch are doing. They've got a lot of really cool stuff that they're doing at the technology layer. They are really super focused again on sustainability and what we can do. But just as far as the human impact, I can't say enough about how Missy has been such a personal friend and mentor.
I want to jump over. So while the sustainability is going on, I want to take everybody a quick mention that if you head over to the What's New at AWS, or if you head over to the reInvent stuff, there are on-stage announcements and off-stage announcements. You want to pay attention to both, because what they release on stage is they have a lot of off-stage announcements that don't make the big screen, right? So they're not going to walk on and talk about it on what was, but there's a lot more value. The 1 year, not last year, 2019. No, yeah, 2019.
They released so last year in years as we measured.
Because
we haven't been in person for 2 years, so we just kind of like
we got rid of the last. Okay, so last year, in 2019, last year in 2019. Wow, it does seem like a long time ago. They released like version 2.0. Now this is Landing Zone 2.0, and Control Tower is now taken over. But it was a offstage release, and I was looking for this, and I didn't know it. I would pay attention to all the stuff. You got to follow some of the offstage announcements. If you don't have it, you can head over into the AWS reInvent page. We're going to highlight some of those that came around I want to talk about like Amazon S3 multi-region access points that we're actually doing, new failover controls enable active passive configurations, the Nitro enclaves. There was actually a huge announcement that the new chips were powering their servers. There was a new release. What was it? HPC. I'm going to look at it. I'll look at the exact one, but that's really cool that AWS is kind of running their whole show, from build to ground, to soup to nuts. They're handling everything from those servers in order to get the most out of it. And they handle from like build to actually install.
It's it really, the life cycle approach and how they've done everything is pretty amazing. And I can see it's great. We've got some folks that are joining the room. We have the official, I'll say it's the Mistwire, the Chris Williams Instax 360 camera is live here in the suite. So
I didn't even notice that. Oh man,
is that your camera, Chris? Oh, Calvin.
There we go. Okay, so we are being recorded. Okay, I didn't know I was on camera.
Are we streaming the streaming? And it's like streaming Inception. Yes.
All right, so here I'm going to jump in and make sure everybody knows what's happening, right? You can follow us at LV Reinvent 22, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, GTM Delta /.com/live. Follow us on everything. Comment on the stream, any of the information you're going to go. That's happening. Once again, my name's John Myer. I'm here with Eric Wright, celebrating his 50th birthday. Yes, I'm going to call it out all day long, 5.0. We'll see if he can make it the entire day.
Exactly. And we've got our VIP event, which will be a lot of fun. I should give a shout out to that as well. We've got Rory Wheeler, who's going to be joining us for the VIP entertainment. Rory is one of the most fantastic performers, a magician and mentalist. But beyond that, if you go to just Roar, so just ROAR communications.com, Rory does work around helping startups and enterprises with messaging, sales training, human engagement. And I cannot tell you the impact, how profound it's been with folks who've worked with them. I've worked with Rory in doing event management where he helped us to do booth traffic increase. And it is literally where we would have like 1,500 leads in a booth. We bring Rory and we're getting 1,500 a day. And they're meaningful connections. He really does bring in true messaging, understands the team, their ethos, the product, the words they use that are important, really, really integrates it. So that's a rare treat we can get. And we'll grab a little bit of B-roll and some of the shots from the party tonight, just because I want to share that. So we'll have Rory, and actually Rory may join us a bit for some of the keynote tomorrow morning. Just hang out with us on the stream.
So Eric, we gotta take a quick break. We got a lineup of folks about to join us. We've got some that are going to be back to back. So we're gonna take a quick break in about a moment. It'll be 5 minutes. Then we're gonna bring on our next guest. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk about what's happening here. We'll talk about from IBEX Labs, Labra. We'll join them and see what they're thinking here about what's happening at reInvent. And we might have to interrupt sometimes because of the announcements. Don't worry, folks. I am live tweeting as much as possible and posting all the information, so you will see me and be able to get a hold of me.
And if you miss anything, of course, you can go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. And I've got pages up there, so all the archives will be there. We're going to post up all the clips. All right, welcome back, everybody. We got a lot going on, and the room is filling up here at the GTM.
We need a room shot.
The room at
we
the
need
GTM,
a room shot.
The GTM Delta Myer Media Experience is growing wildly. We got a lot of folks who are joining us here in the suite, and more importantly, we've got somebody amazing who's joining us here for the broadcast. So, John, you want to do the official proper intro here so that
oh man, you know what? So what we do is the intro is I call him for his first name and I butcher his last name. So I'll leave it. So Shri, I'm going to let you do the honors and introduce yourself. You've been on. I've done a podcast. You've been on that. This has been really informative. We've done a number of things together. I'm glad you get a chance to join us. Thank you so much for sponsoring this event and joining us in the podcast. Shri, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Sridhar. Last name is Adusumilli, and I'm a managing partner and CEO at AWS Labs. And we also have a software company called Labra, and happy to discuss about both of them.
All right, let's talk about IBEX Labs and then how it relates to Labra, and then I really want to talk about OpSync a little bit. I'm so geeking out over this thing. Oh, well, yeah, fly out. So we're going to get the fly out. We've been holding that off for a little bit. We're supposed to do an event for that one. I'm geeking out about Labra and OpSync because just being in ex Amazonian and dealing with the AWS APN and the integration and noise. I'm going to spoil it. Go ahead, talk about it.
And just really quickly, Sri, like one thing that for the folks that are watching is really important that you coming on as a partner to help support us with this has been incredible. We really looked for a matrix of people that if I'm a brand new startup, if I show up at reInvent and I go to the startup, little booth area and I'm going to register a domain name, I'm going to start my startup. It is literally soup to nuts. We can do everything. And that's why knowing that building sales organizations and the disconnect that happens between human process and software, it's a huge chasm. And watching what you and the team are doing, I was like, why didn't I know about you 5 years ago when I was growing and scaling sales teams? So this is particularly apropos that our key target, the people that are watching the stream, are genuinely people that are looking for this. So I can't talk enough about how awesome it is. So let's talk about the solution.
As you're aware, we are a AWS partner. We help startups and SMB customers, and while working with these customers, and as we're scaling up the organization, we saw some challenges while as being part of APN, we had to do deal registrations, etc. And we keep having these problems on trying to grow with AWS, and we looked around and seeing are everyone else having the same problems, and the answer was yes, right? And you also mentioned about data being siloed, right? It's very important for everyone to have the same set of data, or same set of deals that are going on between AWS and the partners, right? and and then we thought, okay, let's solve this. Why someone should solve it, right? So we started the journey. We spoke to multiple customers, and we found out that the problem is actually much bigger than we expected, right? Which is not just about OpSync is one product which helps AWS partners sync their deals to APN, right? That's one problem. The other problem is also marketplace, right? How do partners? Partners have to go through what's called a partner path, right? Which is uh, being first registering to your being a AWS partner, trying to do deal registrations with AWS, but also listing your products and trying to scale up your business using marketplace, right? So what we're trying to solve is the entire partner path process with marketplace, OpSync, etc.
Well, and Sri, it's always amazing to me, like as a recent co-founder of a company myself, you sort of hit this point where you're like, I'm experiencing this problem. I see this problem. It's out there. And it really struck me. I'm like, why hasn't this problem been solved? And I looked around. There's some people that are close to kind of solving the problem that my team's solving. But same with you. And like, you were super focused. But I think it comes because you experienced it directly.
That's correct.
And I think that's the most important. Every really strong startup that has the most incredible value, just they live the experience, they live the problem directly, and then from there they can take that and turn that into a platform offering. So it's really cool that you've been able to take this. This is not, I've got a crazy idea and I had a great successful exit last time, so I'm just gonna, throw my idea at the wall and see if it sticks. You literally were living this problem.
And as we're building the product, we're the first beta customers to use it internally, right? So we go through the same pain every day. So that's why we build fast, we see the problems, and one of the things that our customers observe is even before they ask, we tell hey, we know about this problem because we face the same problem. So we are solving those use cases as well.
Yeah, and when I look at your own background too, I wouldn't let's spend a little time to what led you to the point of the company, and what was your background leading up to that, because that's also it's a very interesting story.
So I come from a technology background. By trade I'm a cloud architect, had multiple AWS certifications, up to I think at 7 at some point.
You are loaded up on certs.
Exactly. Exactly. So we grew organically. We started working with startup and SME customers. We don't provide just a building block. We provide a whole solution, right? And we help customers with security, our niche, right? That's what we focus on. So we get the customers onto the cloud or onto AWS, and also make sure they're secure, and we help them with SOC 2, high trust PCI certification as well. So we help them grow from their one single person startup to 200-300 person startup.
So what they really do is they're customer obsessed, and they just don't say, "Here you go do it,"
That's correct.
and that's just done. They are there with you every step of the way. Working with them and their team has been a blessing. I did an interview with one of their customers, and the very first thing she said was like, "OpSync saved my life." I'm like,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, it doesn't get better. Like
I mean, how can I not capture? I mean, I wanted to end it right there. I was like, wow, that was like
that's it.
perfect.
That's a mic drop moment, right?
I mean, that was just, I didn't even, it wasn't even scripted or it wasn't even a planned thing. That's exactly what they said.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the video as well.
Yes.
And we use that line every time.
Nice. I like that.
Now, one
Yeah.
thing as a technical founder, how did you find the experience? Because again, you understand the real problem at the lowest layer, but being leading the team and building a team, it's a funny dichotomy of I need to have sort of the business side of it. You've obviously it's working, and
Yeah.
and so how does the team look? What was the rest of the makeup of how you've built the overall platform and team approach?
So, I mean, short answer is it's hard. Right? And
I like your honesty. Most people would be like,
yeah.
"No, we've just figured it out." Like, no, it's really difficult.
It's really hard, and it's a lot of learning along the way. But we built a great organization in the sense that I mean we lead very strong technically and being customer focused, and those customers in turn refer other customers as well, right? So we organically grew like that, and we built a team around like our success, our customer stories, and build up the sales organization, marketing organization, and all the supporting organizations as well.
When it comes to the marketplace as an opportunity for a vendor, I'd love to hear your view on like how is marketplace such an important link for APM partners.
Marketplace is a game changer, and if you see like how software is procured right now, it is still not a solved problem all the way.
Amen to that.
All right, wait. I gotta jump in here. Amazon QuickSight Q, a printable format on QuickSight layouts. Adam just released that or just talked about that on the thing. The dashboards look so freaking cool. Sorry, Shri. This is what it's all about. Like, I mean, I am honoring it. He was talking about the analytical stuff that's going on, and then he went right into QuickSight, and they have improved this dashboard time and time again in the overview of it, dealing with some of the customers, Belflor, dealing with the QuickSight stuff. Okay, sorry about that, Shri.
Yeah.
Shri, I actually want to go back to the marketplace thing, and the reason that I want to go back is what is the value of somebody being on this marketplace that you're seeing? Because to me, it's like another selling platform. You think of like Amazon.com, right? These are affiliates; they're going to be selling on it, but now you're on the marketplace. How does this help them as a partner or customer?
Yeah, so it's not about just listing. So you have to think about it as like, how do I close the sale faster, right? It starts with like being there and making sure like your solution is for example, AWS released something called vendor insights, right? What it does is, if you list a software on marketplace, it tells you like whether the software is SOC 2 or PCI compliant, for example, right? So completing all of the steps to make sure that you can go through your procurement cycle faster with the buying organizations,
Right.
making sure your SOC 2 is up to date, making sure uh, your procurement is faster, etc., right? So you have to think about how do I get how do I solve the customer problem as fast as possible by being on marketplace.
What they've really done is they've effectively set all of the gates up that every procurement team
Oh, yeah.
and legal team has to go through these steps, and they've effectively knocked down all those fences because just to be in the marketplace,
Yeah.
you've already achieved all of those registrations, you've achieved all the certifications, and like I've gone through that before in non-marketplace platforms. And you have to go individually, get your SOC 2 registration. And then even there, sometimes it's vendor by vendor have their
That's
own
correct.
vendor relationship agreement. So
Yeah. It's all in the whole thing. And I don't know if you saw the announcement yesterday. They marketplace just released way to deploy into containers. Like if you have a Docker container listed on marketplace, you can deploy it straight into EKS, for example.
I heard that we're talking about doing that. I don't know where I did, but they did just release it. There was so much released yesterday. I'm still getting up to date and reading late at night at some of the releases.
Yep.
The value of that, though, what is the value from a customer perspective or even a partner?
So previously you you had to purchase the product, you would get the license, and then someone would go take that license and go and deploy it on, for example, a Kubernetes cluster. Now you don't have to do any of that.
So
You
that this
go
is
subscribe, and it deploys automatically to your Kubernetes cluster, and no one has to do anything else.
I can say
Wow,
this is
speed.
as living this experience of, yeah, like you go, you get your license, so like at least the procurement bit is done, but that doesn't take care of deployment.
That's correct.
And then there's this huge gap where now, and there's friction.
Yep.
So as a vendor, now there's friction in getting your platform deployed. And if anything goes wrong, that's a real negative experience. Like imagine it's like, getting to the point where you're going to buy something from a store and you pay for it before you go in, and then you're allowed to browse around the store, and then you find out that, oh, it doesn't quite look like I thought it was, but you've already prepaid.
That's correct.
Even the friction removal of the marketplace still has that one extra gate now. And because Kubernetes deployments have been typically complex, very home rolled. So it was a huge boost. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
And if you if like what customers are asking for, they're not asking for, hey, a Lego block here, a Lego block here, a Lego block there. They're asking for a whole solution, right? And we spoke about like one software package getting deployed onto a Kubernetes cluster. But think about like a typical Kubernetes cluster will have like 10 software packages that are required, right?
Right.
So building like a holistic solution is what customers are also looking for, and that's what we are seeing as well. And customers no longer want to talk to 8 vendors, right?
Right.
They want to talk to one vendor and say, hey, I just...
Yeah, when you end up with like so one vendor like here's a Helm chart to deploy it, another one like here's an operator to deploy it, and then some that are like,
hold on, this is going to take about 6 weeks for us to deploy. So we're going to set up a meeting. We're going to get it all done, and it's just this is probably one of the best ads that was silently added because it wasn't talked on. I don't think Peter DeSantis released it or talked about it last night. This was an off announcement. This is why it's really critical to follow those. Hey, everybody, a quick shout out. My name's John Myer. This is Eric Wright. You can follow us on LV.
We've got to reintroduce ourselves because we've been streaming all bloody morning. So we have a lot longer to go.
LV Reinvent 22. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, gtmdelta.com/live. We're here with Sri, CEO of Ibex Labs. We're talking specifically about
a room full of fantastic influencers that are already building.
Hey, influencers over there, raise your hand, give us a shout.
Say hi to the crew there. There we go. Awesome. We are.
All right. So anyway, back to I just wanted a quick recap on things and how we're talking about, obviously AWS Marketplace, Ibex Labs, Labra, and jumping back into some of the conversation about the release the Docker instance that happened for Marketplace and how significant that is, not only for deployment, but ease of procurement for them to go faster rather than waiting for an entire process of somebody to answer an email, send you the license, and a demo.
Yeah. Good. And good luck, and may your God go with you from this point forward. Now, I'll say this as a practitioner who's been watching the ecosystem for a while, and we saw Docker as a platform, then became ultimately Docker. Well, it was sort of born of Docker as a company. I think it was was it One Cloud, or what was the original?
Own Cloud?
Oh, yeah, I forget what their original.
No, it's not.
The irony, they were building a platform as a service. They wanted to build a PaaS, and in order to do that, they needed to use C group, containerization. So they solved that problem, and then they realized like, oh, that's the actual problem that everybody's can't solve, and Docker was born. And then we saw this interesting commercialization of Docker as an open source platform, and they struggled around managing the roadmap. It was so early on. It was effectively kind of the Wild West.
That's good.
But then what we have now, when we look at as a developer, as a technologist, it was a huge boost. And then there became this problem of, does Docker have the longevity as a platform and a supported ecosystem to still be the standard as Kubernetes becomes the de facto scheduler? I would say for the most part, we've, there's tons of people using ECS. There are a disturbing amount of ECS containers and that are floating around. Whole organizations build all their workflows early on ECS. But, Docker as an underpinning, have you, as a technologist, when you look at partnering solutions and choosing platform solutions, do you have to account for like, is this going to be here in 3 years? It's a tough battle, right?
It is a very tough battle. Yeah. And also have to make sure that, it's built for scale, as well as not just choosing the latest technology and, something cool, right?
Yeah.
It has to be there for the long run, because obviously, like organizations don't want to keep switching again and again, etc. Right?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, and we saw the early days of development. I mean, Java effectively became the standard based on this whole slogan of write once, run anywhere.
Yep.
But then we struggled with version control and then underlying platform. Go effectively felt like the savior in the development language ecosystem because of its portability, because of its agnosticism to the underlying architecture. But the downside was it was different, fully different format. It was super fast, but required you to code. If you code it for everything, then you're coding it for nothing.
That's
and
correct.
you don't get the optimizations.
Yep.
You don't get the cross-platform. And in the end, we said, do we really need one single binary to run on 7 different platforms? No, we don't. We went back to kind of opinionated builds. And that's why, so your choice, you've obviously APN, Marketplace, Amazon's a great partner. And we as a founder, you have to be kind of opinion. You have to choose your partners well.
Yep.
How's the relationship been? It seems to me they seem to be a real fantastic partner for someone.
It's been a fantastic partnership, and AWS has helped us grow along the way as well with all the competency programs we have achieved. It helped us differentiate when it comes to like other partners as well, and also put our solution, highlight our solutions in a nice and effective manner. So it's been a great partnership.
So Shri, let me cut over to Labra OpSync, and I want to talk about Flyout because I don't want to run out of time. This is first of all, as a big fan of OpSync, what you guys do. Why don't you give everybody the quick what is OpSync and how is it helping? And I got it. So a huge shout out to Kyle Heiser of just talking work where you work, and I've been using that because it's very true. On what you do. And I don't know if he coined that or not, but I'm taking it from him.
Yeah, we're all stealing it from him.
Yeah, awesome. So talk about OpSync and what it does and how it's helping.
Yeah, so OpSync is so as a AWS partner, you have to submit deal registrations to AWS with on the customers that you're working with, etc. Right? It's very important to do that so that you can co-sell with AWS better. But typically this data is in CRMs, and uploading manually to ACE, it's a huge challenge, right? And if you're doing at a volume that successful companies do, it becomes even more painful, and you have to then keep the data up to date. And we saw the same problem at Ibex Labs, and we saw like all the other partners struggling with the same problem. So we built OpSync, which is a we call OpSync a CRM first. The Labra platform itself, it's a CRM first platform. So it gives sellers a way to work where they work. So they're in Salesforce and they can submit deal registrations right from Salesforce to APN. They don't have to go to another tool. They don't have to learn any new process. It is the exact same platform they've been using, and they can just send their deals directly to AWS from Salesforce.
I heard
HubSpot.
it gets rid of the Google document and Excel spreadsheets, but managing.
We have all these middle tiers, and we started. I always say the joke that the largest, most successful SaaS platform ever is Excel Online.
Oh yeah, and if Excel stops working, half of the business goes away.
And I worked in financial services teams where we'd get a call middle of the day, like we need to restore a 4 gigabyte Excel document. You can't do that, right? That's not, you're not supposed to do that. They're like, what's in here? Like, oh, this is the model for the entire trading system. And it was just like, wow. But because early on, the tool, this is the challenge, right? The tool is so easy to use that we become used to like, well, we should just do everything in here.
Yeah.
And then ops teams, when you're doing sales registrations,
all right,
it was so easy to do that middle tier, and you getting rid of that it's a huge boost because the productivity to go from deal to action, it's a huge
and as Claire said, right, like she used to spend like a lot of time doing in her busy day trying to like do this, and it's all our problems like once you started to OpSync.
It's magic is funny, I say that magic, as we were really going to have an amazing magician who's joining us for our VIP event. Magic is not mystical, it's amazing. It's a real thing that exists, but when you find something that is magical, it works,
Yeah.
and it's solving a problem
That's correct.
that we just didn't realize we had. Sorry, John, you had
No,
some
that's
stuff
all right.
popping up here?
Yeah. So Amazon Guard Duty, new container runtime threat, handling your containers. We were actually just talking about that. So
That's
now
amazing.
it handles that and analyzes it. I'll bring you more information, but Adam just released it and talked about it. Right here on the AWS reInvent keynote by Adam Saliski. We're live. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to take this?
No, sorry, no. This will teach me. We are doing
that's all right.
live.
We're doing it live. So I just wanted to bring you the latest and greatest updated information that's happening through Adam's stuff. So I apologize to all our guests when we jump in and talk about some of these things, but it actually went along to what we were discussing before. Jumping back to Labra and handling this integration, the person I talked to, one of your customers, they said they would spend about 20 minutes a week now in the AWS APN.
Yeah.
Being a former member of handling the alliances between those, I not only had to look at Salesforce and see what the sales guys did and say, hey, listen, I need you to, never mind, I'll just grab it because you're going to mess up the data over there. And now I had to sync it. And it caused a number of delays in some of the processes and actually closing deals. Now, with a click of a button, and I've seen it in action, a click of a button. By the way, I'm not a salesperson or a spokesperson for this, but I see the value, and I don't understand why others don't use it. But a click of a button, it transfers it your required fields, and it helps you improve your visibility within AWS. Okay, I'm done. I'm off my.
So do you want to hear something more interesting?
All right.
How can it get more interesting?
There's no better lead into that. I think that's it.
All right, let's do it.
The pressure's on, Sri.
Let's do it.
So what you spoke about is sending a deal to AWS, for example, right? We just released a new feature which allows you, if you're an ISV, you can send a deal to your consulting partner, the CPPO motion.
Oh wow! So
So
you're
now
actually
it's a three-way deal.
So you're effectively enabling marketplace sellers who are they themselves
That's correct.
are a marketplace, and this is huge because we're seeing more and more MSPs, CSPs, and that's one of the gaps is that they need to manage the account relationship,
That's
and
correct.
it's really really tough to glue that together without
Yeah.
through the marketplace process. Oh wow, that's huge.
And this is, and back to what I was mentioning earlier, like, customers are expecting solutions require multiple partners to come together. So hence our journey to build this ecosystem to
That's
bring all the
amazing.
cloud partners together.
That's pretty good. I like that. I love the addition to that. All right. So what's our next thing that we're going to be talking about?
Oh,
Yes,
also-
I'm leading to you.
Yeah, I'd say when you're looking at developing that, that's an interesting market. How do you engage with sort of the people with the problem in order to figure out what's the right way to tackle the solution? Because that's an interesting, that's a very, very unique and a very massive problem. Immediately, like there's no MSPs are like, yeah, we're dabbling. You're like, no. We have like this massively fully formed process that's then we need to.
Yeah.
They make a change in marketplace
Yeah.
and they have to adapt everything. So this is
so
a tough problem.
Yeah, so we do it for them. So we are constantly on top of what is happening, what changes are happening with these ecosystems, and not only we're on top of it, we are also educating the customer as well.
Yep.
Going back to the customer and say, hey, this is the new process, and the important part is to make sure it's standardized across. Everyone is using the same process, as well as like no one needs to reinvent their own wheel, right? For example, yeah.
So they're not developing something for themselves. It's a customer that has requested it, but they've gone through the pain points.
Yeah.
They're not like, hey, listen, we think this is going to be great. We've never used it, never experienced this. No, they've went through it. They understand that they had to deal with it, and they can't be the only ones. They've worked diligently with AWS for the integration with this, and that's why it's become really kind of like that value, that need to become really successful and everything.
And we are actually bringing feature requests back, saying that, hey, this is what we need to build.
Yep,
Like, let's build it together.
All right, let's talk about Flyout here because we are running a little bit on time, and I don't want to back anybody up. We got to, you know what? You want to do a camera?
We've got
this room is packed. We got more people in the other room.
The suite is already filling up, which is great.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about Flyout.
So Flyout is we are building the Labra platform in verticals. OpSync is the first vertical. Flyout is the second vertical. What Flyout does is help partners, whether you're an ISV or a consulting partner, help you list your solutions to AWS Marketplace, helps with the commerce and analytics portion of it, as well as making sure, like, we also help with vendor insights, for example. So we help with the entire marketplace motion.
When you say vendor insights, come on, give me a little bit more now. Like, what is a vendor insight and what is the value to it?
So when organizations are procuring through marketplace, the problem still exists that the solution procurement has to be secure, has to have some industries accreditations, right? Whether it's SOC 2, high trust, etc. So what AWS has released is right from marketplace, you can see the list of certifications that a software has gone through, so that they can be
Oh,
confident about.
gotcha. So
Yeah,
you guys go through the entire process and make sure you don't
yeah,
just say, "Hey, here's the steps that you need to take for
that's
SOC
correct.
2," right? You're like, "Okay, here, go do these and come back to us." And you actually walk them through the process, helping them procure
Yep,
and get that certification,
yep,
so that when they are successful and people are reaching out to them on, like the marketplace, saying, "Hey, listen, you're already there." So you're speeding it through the process, but doing it in a secure and automated
that is
fashion,
correct.
and
Yep,
you're helping the customer every step of the way.
yeah, yeah, and again, it's like also FTR is another important thing that we help with as well.
Okay, explain FTR to the
Yeah.
audience.
So before you get your solution listed on marketplace, you have to make sure that uh, you are building your software the right way. So what you go through is called a foundational technology review with AWS, to make sure that your solution is built with cloud best practices. So we help with the review process and make sure like the solution can be, like, for example, is DR capable, things like that.
Now, you talked a bit before, and I just want to hit on it real quick before we switch over, because unfortunately we're wall to wall with.
Yep.
I could talk to you all day, Sri, because you've got so much.
Actually, Sri, before he says I could talk to you all day, you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, no,
all
absolutely.
week long.
If it wasn't for the fact that we've got this bloody schedule, we got so many
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
people that we got it. But I'm looking forward to our chance to do a podcast together and really kind of go deep
Yeah,
in some of the stuff. But the consultative thing and the education side, let's talk about how you and the team help people. It's not just simply like buy the product, use the product. What's the post sales? What's the customer success engagement look like?
So the customer success we have every month we go through like updates, what's happening with the overall like AWS changes, as well as like any marketplace changes. So we provide that education like in a monthly fashion as well.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's a huge boost, because we often forget. We think SaaS is easy, and
It's not.
then it's a solved problem. But
These are not
adoption,
solved problems.
no, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Well, Sri, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a real pleasure, and we're looking forward. We're going to jump on. We're going to take a quick
So-
break there. So for folks who want to keep in tune with what's going on, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll have a little bit of music to keep you busy, and of course, do follow along. Make sure you keep in touch with what's happening. Go to gtmdelta.com/live, or just go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. We'll have all the content that's in post. Even yesterday's stream is already up there. If you want to go check out the day one stream.
And my stream's working today.
Yeah,
well, because we just
we had some
high wired
technical
it.
challenges, so we're super proud. And Sri, thank you very much. It's been really great. And with that,
Sri, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us. I really appreciate it. Bringing the information. You're welcome back anytime to join us
And
for this
got
podcast.
some cool swag for you guys too.
Oh
All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
swag is
Anybody-
always
swag is
appropriate,
always.
see?
You know what? That's always a winner in this
Yeah.
one. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget
you.
to follow us. LV Reinvent 22.
yeah. And if you're in the area, if you're in Las Vegas, just come over to Vidara. We're streaming live from 8:30 to 11:30 each day. We're hosting folks.
You know,
as
it's like
can see.
12:30, by the way, usually,
Yeah,
because by
that's,
the time we get done.
We tend to, so we've got folks that we've got a suite that we can host people, and we're super happy that we've been able to make this a real, true interactive event. So thank you, folks. Come on over, just hit us up, and you drop a DM on Twitter, and we're happy to share and get you up here. We've got folks that are in the lobby, so you can look for somebody in an orange sweater, or as well, it could be in a gray shirt with an orange Myer Media logo, easy to find, and we'll welcome you up to the suite, and it's great. So anyways, thank you very much. We'll be right back in about 5 minutes. We are back live, and welcome everybody. Thank you for watching. We've got a lot of amazing guests that are coming with us today. So very proud to be able to welcome Adrian to the table with us. We'll talk a bit more, of course. If you do want to follow on, if you want to drop a question in the chat, feel free to do so. You can go on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Just drop a comment on the stream. We'll be able to pick it up. We've been really enjoying the interactivity, and this is a real pleasure because Adrian I'm a longtime fan. I feel like there's that sort of radio thing of, first time podcaster, long time fan. I was lucky enough to see you, through the industry, met very quickly at an AWS stream. And I've got a selfie, when you were leading out a lot of the open source initiatives there. And of course, prior to that, OpenStack Summit, been able to take in your content. And of course, you've got the venture firm, you've got your
I'm kind of jealous that you got a picture before I got mine last night. I'm behind the 8 ball. Though I did get a chance to talk to him and get him. He joined us for this event, so I'll take it.
Definitely one of the biggest things that I've always enjoyed is your focus on open ecosystems, open communities, and bringing that in and finding the right balance. Because I think we struggle, and I see you were chatting with Rob. You know Rob Hirschfeld, of course. We've always been hung up on this issue of using open technologies, but commercializing the delivery of them. And it's a bit of a dichotomy sometimes. We could talk about a lot of things, but first,
let's do the introduction. Get to
you, Adrian.
Adrian.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on this. And it's like I've been to all the re:Invents. I can't remember. Is this the 11th one? I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
There is a jacket for
I should actually have that stat up there.
I think it's the 11th one.
Did you get your gumball or whatever at the machine? What number re:Invent you were at?
I saw that. So anyway, So when I first came, the history with AWS goes back to when I was with Netflix, and going back before that. So I was with Sun Microsystems for a long time. Then I was at eBay, and then joined Netflix just as they launched streaming in 2007. And then the needs of streaming were a rapid increase in the data center capacity that we couldn't predict very well in advance, and was extremely rapid. Like we knew we needed a huge data center footprint. We didn't know how to build it. And AWS looked plausible. So we got into AWS early. We were the first real commercial customer. Like the first sales rep was nominated to talk to us. Literally, there was a time when AWS was on a credit card and click-through.
Incredible.
And that was the only way you could buy it. It said, we're not running Netflix on a credit card.
What? You don't have a limit like that?
It's probably a little frightening how many companies were in that phase, because they just weren't ready. They didn't realize the consumption level they were going to receive.
Yeah. So this was in 2008, 2009. We said, okay, we need a proper. So the first customer contract, the first salesperson, the first customer contract was actually sort of hammered out, and it set the path for how AWS works. And it's a little different to the way most enterprise sales contracts work, right? And it's deliberately different because we wanted something different. And so that permeated through. So there's a lot of the early features of AWS were driven out of this, well, this is what we need, go and build it for us,
right,
in the early years. So there's a lot of real formative things that happened, and we figured out how to get everything up and running.
Well,
and then around 2010, I started going out and talking about what we were doing at conferences, and people the initial reaction was, "You guys are crazy. You'll be back in your data centers pretty soon." Literally, that was the response, right?
I've always been amazed at how much is it you saying we need to be out there doing this, because it is rare, especially in companies that have a pretty strong veil of secrecy and a lot of things, because it's commercial operations have to have that. But you've been very strong in the forefront of we need to tell our story, and it's because it inspires other innovations in the community. And I think that's, where did that ethos come from? Because I've always seen you kind of at the forefront of making sure that everybody gets the benefit of what I and my team are doing.
It's an enlightened self-interest thing. So if you are the only, we've seen this with Amazon does this as well with some of its investments. If you're the first customer of a startup and you're the only customer of the startup, you just placed a bet that's going to lose, right? If you're going to be the first customer, you want to say everyone else should come in here too. So Netflix at the time, in particular, and I've left Netflix almost a decade ago now, but Netflix at the time was very brave and willing to try something out. So we were the first customer of JFrog, the first customer of Nginx, one of the first customers of App Dynamics, right? And so we went and we pulled these startups in and made them successful. But then it's important to an AWS, right? Similarly, we need to make AWS successful. Otherwise, you don't want to be, like I say, you don't want to be a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah,
you want to be a small fish in an ocean. So you need to get everyone else in, so that you're not the sort of the big. Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? You've got to have everyone else. So that was the sort of self-interest bit. And the more recent example is with Amazon's investment in companies like Rivian,
right,
where they put money in, but they also placed a big enough order that it made Rivian viable. Like, we need 100,000 vehicles, delivery vehicles, and we're going to put money in. And it made Rivian successful enough they're able to IPO, and on the back of that deal. So, and there's a number of other startups that Amazon is invested in out of its climate fund, which are the same principle. You want to bootstrap this organization by giving them a big order and some money, and you want to be the first and biggest customer. And sort of Netflix had a similar process going with a lot of startups. So it's a good way of looking at it. And you end up getting very favorable terms.
Right.
Like it's massive discounts. I mean, the startups would pretty much give the product to Netflix and for just sort of because they wanted the reference after a while. And so part of the going out and talking about what we were doing was to create a technology brand around Netflix, which meant that we could buy technology more cheaply, and we could also get better stuff. So there's a lot of self-interest if you play it right.
A lot of give and take happening going on because you're actually setting them up for success, but it's actually a group effort. That's a true Amazonian there.
Yeah, and as a practice in the startup ecosystem, it is truly, the sort of pot committed mentality that they're both invested in the back end. So they obviously have vested interest in some sort of level of outsized outcome on the other side, but they are then spending into that bet to make sure that it will be viable. And I think that's one of the biggest things is we often see this problem of sort of the pejorative of being a VC, and VC culture often gets tied to some difficult and negative stories, not realizing that there's so many real proven cases where they are both innovating, choosing innovative partners, guiding them through the growth phase, and then literally investing in success in that growth all the way through. I think we need much more of that, or maybe it's going on and we just aren't hearing the stories enough because it's just too easy to talk about some juice arrow or something that it's just like it's an easy sort of Twitter, TikTok type of negative story, and I love these positive stories.
Yeah. Well, we created an open source program to share some of the technology. We were contributing to some existing projects, then we started producing our own. So that went pretty well. I was actually on stage in, I think it was 2012 or 2013 on Werner's keynote, giving out prizes for open source to a bunch of people.
You get an open source, you get an open source, and you get.
Yeah, we had fun with that. And then then I moved on. I started basically since then. My job has been explaining what we did 10 years ago to everybody else, right? And so I joined Battery Ventures and started going around the sort of startup world doing that. And that was when microservices started picking up. And so I got very involved in that and the whole container revolution. And then eventually joined AWS in 2016. And then was running open source for them. That went through a whole bunch of things like the fuss with Elastic,
right?
Doing deals with people like Grafana, helping smooth the relationships with some of the open source vendor community, and also helping AWS release open source projects in a much more effective manner. So just building all of that, building the credibility in the open source community. So we worked on that for a while. And then for the last couple of years, I was working in sustainability, as was mentioned. And then last summer, I finally said, okay, I've had 40 years long career. And I'm done. I want to go please myself and work when I feel like it. And so I'm goofing off some of the time, going on road trips. And we were chatting about I drove my Lotus down to San Diego for the West Coast Lotus meet.
Oh man,
nice.
His Lotus is nice. I've seen the video. He's actually in a YouTube video as well that was put on. Well, it was on YouTube or whatever it is. I want to talk about that.
Haggerty. Yeah. So,
yes.
So there's Jason Camisa is a well-known motoring journalist, and he puts things up on the Haggerty channel. And he wanted an old Lotus Elise. He has a Series 2 Elise. He wanted a Series 1 to do a story of the
very
of the
nice
car. And I have a Series 1, so if you want to see the car, you can go look at the Haggerty channel, and there's it's got getting on for 1 million views. And so if I get to sell that car, I've got the promo video
already set for
already set. But I've had that car 20 years.
He's not going anywhere. He's taking it down the shore again. Down his trip. Adrian says he's retired, but I think he's doing a lot more now and socializing and being out there and vocal and coming to this event. And in fact, thank you so much for joining us for this. This is really cool to have you here. I want to jump over and talk about some of the releases that are happening in AWS and all the chips and everything and the investments that they're doubling down the new instances and types, because you and I were talking before we kicked things off, and some of the things and some of the capabilities of it Why? Like, what are they doing? What are they trying to achieve? From a technical advisory perspective, obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I left Amazon. I actually switched out of AWS into the central Amazon team a couple of years ago. So I haven't been really involved with AWS, and I left at the beginning of June. So I wasn't aware of what was going to be announced here. And I've been doing some advisory work. I'm an advisor for Nubank, which is a big AWS customer, and also a couple of the startups working on sort of carbon monitoring, helping them with carbon monitoring. So that's my kind of side gig to keep me busy. But
I think your side gigs would be most people's full-time gigs. You've mastered the art of staying involved at the right level and having impact without having to overcommit yourself. I think that's probably one of the hardest part. Retiring poorly is what most of folks in your position often end up doing, and it's a tough balance.
Yeah, so I'm not really hands-on now, but I like looking at things, figuring out, making sense of them, and trying to help other people with them. So that's sort of what I do. My job as an advisor is to ask awkward questions, right, and not to actually own like keeping something working. So, and just going back a little bit, I was at Supercomputing Conference a few weeks ago, and so as a sort of a consulting vehicle, I joined some friends of mine who a few years ago set up a group called Orion X, which is sort of an analyst consulting firm, a lot of focus on HPC in that space. And the last job I had at Sun was chief architect for HPC. So I kind of did like 20 years later, let's go back and see what's happened.
Going back home.
Yeah. And some things are the same, some things have changed, but it was interesting. And one of the things out of that conference was they were saying, well, we're just running on the standard chips we get from AMD and Intel and NVIDIA and whatever. And there was this discussion about, well, should there be custom chips? I said, no, I don't think we're going to see custom chips. That was 2 weeks ago in a session that they called Reinventing HPC. Right? And as 2 weeks later, AWS has reinvented HPC. They're coming out with a custom chip focused on HPC.
Ooh,
which is
they laid it down right there for a little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, I was gonna write a blog post about that, and if I put it out before today, the people have thought I had inside knowledge on it. So I'm glad that we're still in edit process. So we're going to have something coming out later this week talking about all the stuff that's happening in supercomputing and what's happening there, and then how it's playing into cloud. Because from the keynote last night, Peter DeSantis' keynote had two things that were really interesting. One was the new HPC optimized Graviton chip, the 3E. More vector performance, like 35% higher performance, and this is the trend that we're seeing. We're now in a battle for who can build the best custom chips across the main players, and the chips are generally performing better than the off-the-shelf chips that you can get from AMD and Intel and whatever. And it turns out you can design a chip now, and they tend to work first time. Like in the old days, when I was at Sun, we used to come up with these Spark chips, and they take years trying to get the damn chip to work before they could ship it. Now, if it doesn't work first time, you screwed up. And you see this with you've got a Mac laptop. It's got an M1 or M2 chip in it. Those are immensely powerful chips. iPhones and all of the phones. We've got supercomputers just being churned out not by the traditional vendors, but by the people. These chips are just immensely powerful.
When we look at the enabler for that, I think of Transmeta is a great example where Transmeta sort of came to the market and said we're going to do it different. Obviously we had Sun, we had Intel. We had those early players, and it felt we was this going to be an next Fairchild Semiconductor? No one knew, and there was an interesting innovation, and they were solving a problem. Their abstraction layer they had to solve it at was to be able to deliver the virtualization for the representation of the chipset, so the software would work in their custom silicon. And now I think we're further along where it's like no one's going to rewrite. But now today, like I bought an M1, and it was a bit of even then it was still a wing and a prayer that is all my software going to work, because I use some sort of very purpose-built software for like video rendering and such, and they were quick to adapt to it. Is the software layer and the software abstraction now well formed, and that's enabled us to do this?
I think it is now very well layered. The ARM stuff just works.
Right.
The interesting one, and there's another architecture called RISC-V, which is completely open source architecture. And if ARM licensing gets more restrictive, we're starting to see RISC-V turn up as well. And I think that is going to be similarly a pretty easy transition, because the software layering is now pretty solid, and the portability across architectures is actually pretty good. So I think that's kind of what's happening in the industry now in terms of getting people into building these chips. And we're going to see sort of an arms race now between AWS and Google and Microsoft and NVIDIA, and who can come up with the best custom CPUs, and then Intel and AMD trying to keep up with a much more general purpose design.
Right.
It takes longer to build, perhaps, and it's kind of they've got more legacy slowing them down.
Right.
So there's some interest. So that's one of the trends that I think we'll see. And then AWS has its accelerators like the Trainium chip. So there's a new version of Trainium came out yesterday on the TRN1 or whatever. So
Right.
This is for training machine learning jobs, and it's a custom system for doing it. The one they announced a year ago had 800 gigabits of network bandwidth. They just doubled that.
Wow.
So now you've got a single instance with 1.6 terabits of basically Ethernet coming out of it.
That's incredible.
Which is just nuts, right? And it's hard enough to get a 1 gigabit network to work at home. And
That's right.
This is like 1,600 gigabits out of a single machine, and then they form clusters of thousands of these machines to do training models. And these are the sort of supercomputers in the cloud, which are being rolled out for things like, so the Alexa team would use this for training the speech models, and you'd see the other, the large players in this space. People working in this space are doing very large deployments of training models, and this is a big business. So that's kind of the new supercomputer,
Right.
is really around AI. And you can sort of run HPC on it, but they're not really optimized for HPC. So there's some interesting things happening there where you really need to optimize differently if you're trying to do finite element simulation or weather prediction. It's different enough that you're having to build custom chips for it.
And I saw a lot of the adjacent ecosystem stuff, of course, with what's going on with CXL and driving standardization around distributed memory architectures, and seeing that become real. It's funny, I was at SDC in Santa Clara, what feels like not that long ago. It was probably 4 months ago, and there is a lot of stuff around, again, this purpose-built HPC, but it doesn't need to be a full machine. Like, it literally used to be like and if I call it, I don't mean to call it vendor names, it's out of reference. I never want to tie you to Adrian endorses this. It's more like HP, would ship their purpose-built full rack, and it was designed specifically for one type of workload, whether it was HPC or whatever. And then they couldn't move them because there was not enough maybe consumers of it. And then now we're at the point where you can literally create a disaggregated architecture, but yet get all those optimizations. And the network bandwidth problem has been a huge issue in that area of, that's great, we can do this incredible compute, but then there's a bottleneck. And so being able to eliminate that bottleneck, and then as we see more open memory architectures come in, it's going to be pretty fantastic, because I see more stuff as compute that's happening closer to the storage. So computational storage, again, another, it's generally being done by the labs, a few of them here in Las Vegas, and that stuff is coming back, and there's more options, which is it's much needed. I mean, even seeing little, I'll say smaller players, but unique players like Oxide and other folks that are coming to the market. If you looked 20 years ago and said, but you're going to come up with a brand new chip for what reason? And ARM proved that it was necessary.
Yeah, I think we've done that. I think the other thing, you mentioned a couple of things there. The real difference between supercomputers and everything else is supercomputers are water cooled.
Right.
Like, you can run supercomputing, there are plumbing vendors.
Yeah.
Seriously, there is plumbing. I mean, they say, Seymour Cray was a plumber, is actually one of those old stories, right? So they immense amount of concentration. They have so many GPUs close together in that rack, and you can cut latency by putting them close together. Now, That's really the difference. That's really the remaining difference, because what you have in the cloud is a supercomputer, but it's air-cooled, and it's spread over a larger area. And the other thing that they talked about last night was SRD, and the way that AWS has optimized its Ethernet to give you a multipath flow. And now they've got TCP using it as well. So just in regular traffic, instead of sending your packets over one link between two machines, the packets spread out and go down multiple paths to get there, all encapsulated. Wow. So this is the two worlds blending in some sense.
Yeah, we often had this even in the data center. The idea of like path aggregation was always just such a just to solve that one problem, I was to say, find me a good path aggregation or and I'll find you a network that's gone down every weekend for the last 3 weeks trying to figure it out, because quite often we would see the software didn't behave as expected, or, multi CPU, same thing. One CPU is pinned, the other three are sitting flat at 1%. The software layers are now able to leverage these tools. And I think the development community just kind of expects it. And maybe that's where this convergence of many things that are allowing it to truly thrive.
Yeah. And you mentioned CXL a little while ago, and most people probably haven't heard of this. It's Compute Express Link. It's effectively going to replace the PCI bus, which is the I/O bus that system. So if you think about a rack right now of machines, it's the rack of machines has memory and CPU and network cards, and it's connected together on the network. What CXL lets you do is connect them all together on the buses. So the I/O bus and it's cache coherent. So you can start putting a pool of memory. You can put a big block of memory somewhere in a rack, and you can allocate that memory pool to the individual machines. So if a machine needs a bit more memory, it can just allocate some from the central pool, and it can give it back. So you can start resizing it. Now, AWS isn't talking about this at all.
Right.
The next generation CPUs have CXL built in. Like the Sapphire Rapids one, the new Intel one, that has an early version of CXL. The next generation ARM chips have the CXL 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And CXL 3 is a full fabric. So think about an entire rack of hardware being effectively a pool of machines where all the network cards and the memory and the machines can be combined together to make an arbitrarily large machine. You can have the whole rack be like a petabyte of RAM,
Right.
or you can make it be lots of small machines. So this is going to let you get away from this whole current model where you have the Amazon thingy, like the 2XL and the 4XL and the 8XL, right? Where they're all like half. You're taking a big instance and chopping it down. You'll be able to actually flex the sizes of things. And I don't know, no one from the big cloud vendors is talking about this, but I think this is about 2 years out. So we'll start seeing early versions of this in a year or so, and maybe in 2 years, it's probably going to be the thing. So it's just something to watch for. Compute Express Link. The whole industry finally got together into an open standard.
Yeah.
Again, right? Because there was sort of an Intel-specific version, and then all the other vendors all had their own versions of it. They effectively pulled all the patents into one place and came up with a common standard, and it runs on a PCI bus transport. So this was something that we've been waiting for a long time, is everyone to agree on a standard so that then you can lay out everything on it. So that's something to watch for in the next few years.
So Adrian, real quick question. One of our listeners here put a comment in the chat, Daryl. So his question is, what are some of the use cases or benefits from a customer perspective for this? So we're talking all about this stuff, and those who don't understand the capabilities on how their application is now going to utilize some of these enhancements that other companies are making. And we're not saying AWS, we're just saying in general, like the industry. What are some of the use cases for this?
So, if you're familiar with your performance on an Intel chip, right, what you're seeing on the ARM chips now is the Graviton versus the Intel instances on AWS. They're cheaper, they're in many cases faster, and they use less energy. So you're going to reduce your carbon footprint, and you're going to reduce your cost, and you're going to go faster, right? And they're special for running whatever work. And you can pick, if you've got a workload that runs better on Intel or AMD, you can go pick those too. So you get some choice. Maybe you need a little bit of benchmarking, but this is kind of that's the trend. That's what's going on. They're doing it because they can do better integration. There's better performance. They can build more security into it. One of the things Graviton does is it encrypts all of its memory. Like all of the RAM, all the data that's written to it is encrypted as it's written out and decrypted as it's read back in.
From a customer perspective, understanding that Graviton does that and the security, because obviously when you think about utilizing the virtual and somebody else's, you have your virtualized instance, but the underlying memory, the data is still there, and customers always like, well, you can still access that. Somebody can. But understanding how Graviton encrypts and decrypts that, you've now essentially gave them a sense of security that their data is not being able to be read by somebody else or another person in the area or instance.
And we saw this as part of
the disks as well, right?
Yep.
Right. And one of the ways of thinking about this is when you stop using an instance and you want to repurpose it for the next person, you don't go and wipe memory and wipe the disk. You don't have to overwrite the disk. You delete the key.
Oh, faster. I mean,
You
to
delete the key,
provision.
and it's now just a bunch of random numbers, and you can reprovision again. And if you take a machine out of a rack to be serviced, like if you have the outpost system,
Yeah, they got
right?
that lock and everything.
Yeah, there's a lock and there's a thing and there's a key built into it. So when you take it out of the rack and send it in for service, it's just full of random numbers. And if it comes back from service, or you put it back in the rack, then the key re-enables it. The key is part of the rack.
Yep.
Right. So there's some interesting it means you can reuse your instances more quickly, which means you get high utilization. You can instantly redeploy a machine for the next job over, or a Lambda function or whatever. Right. So think of it as not just security; it's a way of rapidly erasing something in a safe way.
We saw the issue that raised this to the market, the early work in encrypting with transparent page sharing. We saw, of course, Miter and Spectre and a couple of vulnerabilities that exposed this issue. And it was amazing to see the rapid response. AWS was among the fastest ones because, of course, they have entire control over the system. And within hours, I was getting notifications of, hey, guess what? Your instance is going to reboot. And they were able to implement patching. And then we've taken those lessons and now moving it down into the chip layer. And, even VMware struggled with this for a long time of doing it purely at the software layer. There was transitory points where it had to be decrypted and catching it in flight. So I love this idea of really, truly fully encrypted, decrypted only in transit, and then encrypted paths between. And this, again, where we see the standardization around how we do busing and pathing between devices from CPU to memory. Everything around security is being wrapped in at the base now, which is much needed. Like you said, there's a ton of use cases, but sometimes we forget about it. It seems easy, like, like, why would you need this level of encryption? Like, there's a lot of reasons.
There's a lot you can do with that. And the new Nitro 5, I think, chip they announced last night with double the networking throughput. And again, that does all the encryption for you and the IO offload, and you get the whole instance to do what you want. So I think that's, this is all the trend. Everyone's doing the same kind of thing.
We struggled with the performance barriers for most of the stuff. And I think that's been the biggest issue, is that we could do, even just getting TCP offload at the network stack was enough of a challenge to understand just that raw benefit. Then you add encryption and decryption, and there's a pretty significant overhead. I won't say massive, but it's a not light. It's a non-zero impact on the workload. No matter how you slice it, there will be impact, and it can be large. But we're seeing the innovations where every vendor is just moving. Every single piece of this architecture has that capability in the hardware, in the software layer, in the firmware. And so it's not just, there's nothing worse than we used to have, in years of my day, we saw the early technologies, and even if you had an innovation, you're like, okay, well, we have to move all the workloads off of that server, put it on this new rack. Like, not anymore. Send firmware, life is good.
Yeah. And if you look at this SRD thing, think of this as it encapsulates the TCP IP packets that are going. It sends them over, they'll say 16 different paths. So instead of sending the packets one at a time in order, it sprays them across 16 different network paths to get to the other side. So they get there quicker.
Yeah.
And they said that the single stream performance went from 5 gigabits to 25 gigabits.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's a 5x improvement. So if you're pumping data between two endpoints, it's going to potentially go 5 times faster using this technology. And they're optimizing for retransmits, and the encryption, it's all being handled by these Nitro chips. So it's transparent to you. They have to turn it on, I think, at a node by node level, like an instance by instance level. So you go in the, and then you have it for a few instances right now. But you don't have to change your code.
Right.
You just have to decide you want to turn it on. So if you're doing bulk data transfer between machines, this is going to make a huge difference. And it takes advantage of the fact that they've got a heavily over-provisioned network in the cloud.
I think when we began, of course, with the idea of commoditization of this stuff, and it became it's a weird sort of pejorative. Sometimes we talk about commoditization. It just meant that we could easily deliver something that would just work. And, there was interchange options. There were scalability options. But now to have this where we can get optimized interoperability, very, very different than just pure open operability. We are really solving the performance problem. And then it was always like t-shirt size. How many enterprises have I gone into, and you've gone into, this idea of like, well, we do everything in t-shirt sizes. but is that really the right approach? I get that it worked for Amazon, who runs, or other cloud platform providers. That was solving a specific problem for them of predictability on workload placement and limiting workloads so they can sort of guarantee some level of performance or minimize risk to performance. But then the workloads came along and said, I need 14 and a half gigabytes right now. And then tomorrow I'm going to need 29 for 3 hours as we're doing a massive job. Like, that freedom is fantastic. I think the t-shirt sizes will go away, and it will be much more adaptive. And what we see with the learning capabilities in everything, like they can truly optimize your compute choices based on watching patterns and doing the machine learning to say, hey, you're more likely to get better long-term value and performance out of this particular instance type. And that's a big boost for businesses.
Yeah, and it really ties into the the cost optimization side, right? Seeing a lot of people right now going, okay, we need to save some money. And if you look at your cloud footprint, most people, it looks now like their data center footprint. Data center footprint was a big sprawling mess of underutilized hardware. You moved it to cloud, now you've got a big sprawling mess of underutilized cloud options. But the nice thing is, if you go and tune it up, your bill goes down immediately. Like if you want to save some money next month, go and tune your workloads, and you'll get a smaller bill next month. That data center doesn't do that.
Right.
So people aren't used to going in and saying, I need to get some money back out of my data center. You're not going to go and like tune it up and then sell off a few racks.
Right.
People don't do that, but it works the cloud gives you this ability to shrink. And we saw that during COVID. All the travel industry companies rapidly shrank their workload. They shrank their AWS bill extremely quickly when the lockdown hit. And then they were able to ramp it up again when everyone got out of lockdown and desperately needed to go on vacation again.
We finally saw elasticity move the other way, because we've used the phrase elasticity for so long, but the truth is the elastic generally only goes in one direction. And that's great, like solving upward scalability, but we never we talked about the idea that you could scale back when needed, but nobody was, or well, I'll say it was not broadly used to scale down. And
if you scale down at night and do it aggressively, you can pretty much halve your cost.
Incredible. You're talking about cost optimization. That's very, let me just say, we have head of the optimization here that's joining our podcast next, and I'm not going to give it away. Yes. Don't worry. Let's give an audience shot real quick. Can we give a quick in a group? Everybody wave from the audience. By the way, we do have a camera up there. Yes, we have a full room of people. Alex Head and Steph Gooch are coming up next here to join the podcast. But you're talking about a cost optimization that's near and dear to my heart, being in ex-Amazonian around cloud management tools and, centered around that focus for it. And we've come full circle where we're talking about not only those instances and everything where you can, get the most and efficient. Graviton 3 that, came out was not last 2 years, last year, 2 years.
But generally probably announced 2 years ago and started shipping last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was about a 30% cost savings. And that is on their technical document. So I can quote that only because I know it. But utilizing that for speed and efficiency
may vary.
Yeah, well, about up to 30%, but and cost optimization on things that are happening now. Now things are, we're trying to save money, but we're trying to scale our business at the same time. Doesn't usually equate to like, hey, we need more infrastructure, but now we can do more things efficiently.
Yeah, and if we're looking at, okay, people are uncertain because of the sort of recessionary stuff that's going around, you're less likely to make a large capital investment. Right, so you want to move stuff to variable, so you tend to hire more contractors, or if you want to do a project, you're more likely to do it in cloud than to go build another data center right now.
Yep.
So that I think is one of the reactions to make things variable, and then you should also go to your existing cloud footprint and just tune the hell out of it. Hire up some performance people; they will pay for themselves in a month. Yeah, it's
a new role that has been created, that performance and optimization to minimize your cloud cost. Something we didn't have and being, really tuned to what your environment's doing.
And even where the software capabilities were there still is a very human understanding of what the application requirements are. And quite often, I'm a huge fan of automation, but I also know there's a point where it's difficult to tap the FSD button. Like the idea of a full self-driving data center, it sounds fantastic, but we as humans tend to like to we want to tell us it's about to do this. It's not actually correct that we do that because we are slowing the thing down. But I'm seeing more now that people are trusting more automated optimization and they're leveraging the software capabilities, and it's a burgeoning ecosystem in just general cost optimization and performance and cost, which is also, I could save you a bunch of money. I could scale down all of your resources, but then RIP your productivity and your performance, because then it's a constant set of trade-offs. And if you're going to guess, obviously we always guess on the high side, and data center architects tend to double that. So we always make gross indecision, mistakes, and then we choose on the high, and then we're afraid to scale it back because we have this weird, I remember a data center years ago and a SQL server that went sideways. And so it's like stuck in my head that I'm afraid to automate downsizing.
Yeah. And if you've done that in the data center, you're stuck with it.
Right.
Except for the times when it turned out you underestimated. Right?
Those are the times where
a panic order goes in and you have to kind of desperately do the diving save. And when I was at Sun, I was involved in a lot of those diving saves for customers, trying to help them get through something that had blown up. But in the cloud, you say, okay, you should over provision when you launch something, and you just should do a shrink to fit. There should be a schedule, 1 month or 1 week later. Okay, it looks like this. I can shrink to fit. I can run this on a quarter of the cost. But if you don't do that shrink to fit stage, or you don't have a performance team looking for the big fat, the low hanging watermelons, not the little one bunch of grape, right? You want to find where are the big things that are slow, that are wasting money. You can find it. And really, most enterprises, if you actually take a good look at it, you can probably halve your cloud spend. And Amazon will come and help you do it. And AWS is incented to do it. The sales force is built to do that in the way they're set up, which is not usual for most sales teams,
right?
Which are trying to maximize their quarterly, I got quarterly.
Yeah, you generally get
my numbers this
you
quarter,
get
right?
spiffed to sell more, not reduce the consumption.
But truly they are, because what they've noticed is that if you make it, like, say you halve the cost for the customer of doing stuff, they will find more stuff to do. If it's half the cost, the ROI on new projects goes up, and more things move to the cloud more quickly if it's seen as cost effective than if it's seen as expensive. So what you tend to see is the growth rate has like a ratchet down when you save the money, and then the growth rate after that is higher.
Right.
So they've seen this over and over and again in accounts. Each time you save money, the growth rate increases in the customer. So they're playing a long game that they will turn into a very large customer, rather than trying to optimize for the quarter by quarter, which is what you'd get with a traditional sort of sales team.
Amazon is unique in that their culture has always been wrapped, even internally, the employee culture is very much in, we are in this for the long term. We've read and heard many things. There's lots of great books have been written and talks have been had about the sort of the original, there were salary caps, but it was very focused on equity, because you want to drive people caring about the outcomes in the long term, not being incented to make short-term decisions that were personally profitable and that could impact a long-term customer. And they saw it. Like I said, the customer lifetime value, when you save them money, increases. And it seems counterintuitive, but I think we're there. We're not going to see people leaving the cloud to build their own data center. There's a few, vocal stories, but they're more people that are very long players and they've been at it for a long time, and they don't have, distributed workloads. They don't have variable workloads. Okay, maybe that makes sense that you could move some of your stuff back to a data center, but for the most part, I'm not seeing the shift back to metal data centers happening at a broad scale.
Yeah, there's a problem with that, though. If you go try buying some networking hardware right now, a lot of it's on a year-long delivery. Right. So I got to deploy this workload. Sorry, I can't buy any networking, and I need some hardware. So if you can't get the hardware, well, they will stick it in the cloud because it's there.
And they've
right?
got it. Yep.
So I think we're starting to see some workloads forced into the cloud because you literally cannot get the parts you need to do some deployments unless you've got existing capacity. But I actually want to pick up on one thing. You mentioned a book, and it reminded me. There's a new book out. It's called The Value Flywheel Effect by David Anderson.
Oh,
it's
great.
An IT Revolution Press coming out of Gene Kim's organization.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Right. So I met David when I was talking to Liberty Mutual a few years ago, and was just like staggered by what they were doing. Last year at reInvent in Werner's talk, he had somebody from Liberty Mutual on. Forget what his name is.
Matt Coulter.
Matt Coulter,
yeah.
Yep. So, and just amazing.
The guy, I had him on my
CDN.
podcast. He's so
It's
awesome.
the CDK things. all that stuff, right? So what this is the story of that written down. It's a mixture of Wardley mapping, serverless, really going incredibly fast. They are ludicrously fast at getting stuff done. Like, and they're an old organization, but they had this pocket that says, if you do it this way, we can build you that in a few days or a week. Wow. If you build it the old way, it'll take a few months. And you're like, okay, let's try that.
Let's test this hypothesis.
And it kept working, and eventually it's like, we're just going to stop doing things the old way. Yeah, I mean, there's some long-term jobs and things, and you've got packaged software, you need somewhere to run that. You run that on Kubernetes or whatever, right? But they've really gone to serverless first for anything they can, and they've just got, it's a fantastic success story. And there are other pockets, other companies I've seen. There are like teams that have done stuff which is just like, we built this in a weekend where people thought it would take months, that kind of stuff. But this is, they systematically did it right up the whole company, and he's written a whole book about this. So I just saw him yesterday, and he's got copies of the book, physical copies.
That's great.
Finally, so I got my signed copy.
Nice.
So I introduced him to Gene Kim and helped him get the book deal, and encouraged him to finish writing the book, and wrote a foreword for it, and
that's
put
fantastic.
the quote on the back saying this is a good book. But
Oh, well, thanks for the shout out.
I don't get any revenue for it, but it's an awesome book, and there's a lot of great detail in there. And if you really want to go super fast, there's a lot to learn that he's written down there. It's a very well organized book. Like, this is the step by step. You build a flywheel for going super quick.
Yep.
I think anybody should just have the IT Revolution Press library on their shelf. It's just such a fantastic set of real lived experiences that are played out and done in a way that are really narrative as well, which is a rare treat of being able to read it and not have it be like a manual, which is often where we get stuck as technologists. We kind of think in white paper and blog format. It's very instructional, but really introducing the human stories. I mean, obviously we saw, stuff like the Phoenix Project would, stemmed from the idea of the goal, and then even with all of the work they've done in the follow-on books, they still maintain a very strong narrative style. I always sort of have a poke at Gene. I'm like, when I see that you're writing a book, I basically set my calendar for 4 years from now. I'm looking forward to buying it, but it's the work they put into it is incredible. I can't even imagine what the authoring process is like, but it's quality out the other side. I've never been disappointed by anything that's come out of that group.
Yeah, and the events they put on are really good as well.
Yeah.
But I just want to go back to the serverless first thing. So one of the other announcements last night was that, which hopefully people sort of have been tracking this. So when you use AWS Lambda, there's a startup delay the first time you use a function, right? There's cold start.
Right.
They just made it go away.
Oh.
Last night there is no cold start. You don't have to have cold start. You can use, if you want to, you can use it, but you still have to enable this new mode. But what they're doing is that when you deploy your code, they run it once, and they run it to the initialization phase, and then they snapshot that instance.
Wow! So they can actually maintain.
So
they can maintain that state now.
So
and then,
the
fantastic.
pre-initialized function, which is run for initialization code, is the starting point when the Lambda function gets invoked, right? And so then there's a few implications. They have to re-randomize your random seeds, and you have to reconnect. But all the AWS SDKs have been modified to reestablish any connections that are needed, right? So you still have to, maybe, depending on exactly what you've put in your initialization, you might not be able to use it. But for most people, it's some relatively minor changes. Yeah, one of the main reasons people complain about like serverless is this cold start time. Yeah,
Right.
They just eliminated that completely.
We just wrote it off.
Incredible.
You don't have to do this anymore. And they've been working on this for a long time because, this is the fundamental capabilities built into the VM system, into Firecracker, but getting all the stuff done so that they could go and fix the the random seeds and all those things took a while. So I know this one's been baking for a while because I was talking to some of the engineers working on it over the years. Super happy to see this thing out there in the wild now.
Wow, thanks for sharing.
It's not a
That's
simple
pretty
problem.
cool.
The idea, especially like I said, the idea of seeding and hashing of the initial push. It's like everything moves, and so you can't guarantee deployments to the place in which you originally launched it. And it bred a whole ecosystem of startup players to sort of try and solve that problem of sort of pre-warming and building frameworks around, we saw a lot of stuff like Erica Windish. She had produced a great company which had been acquired, and a few other folks, a company called begin.com. My friend Brian LaRue is really targeting it, but more, he's not targeting the performance and cold start problem, more around how do you manage code in a true workflow method. And so I'm excited by serverless being much more viable for folks without having to worry about building the scaffolding around it anymore. And now with cold start elimination, wow, that's huge.
That's pretty good. So, Adrian, we unfortunately have to wrap things up.
We got to get you on your way.
We got to get you on your way, and we got a huge lineup of going on. Adrian, I got to thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed the conversation. The stuff that's released, your insights on some of the things in your technical advisor, and I hate to kind of use that, but how can people reach out to you? What's the best way, if you want them to reach out to you, by the way?
Sure. I'm looking for possibilities where I can advise people, particularly if they're interested in figuring out how to measure carbon in monitoring tools. That's sort of one area where I'm currently advising Catchpoint and Harness in that, and other companies in other areas. I'm trying not to be directly competitive with existing relationships, but I'm certainly interested in helping people understand how carbon monitoring works in the enterprise space. There's lots of people worrying about carbon like in green tech, right? But in the enterprise space, more and more people are going to be figuring out how to measure it and report it for their business, and that's the area where I've built up some expertise.
Fantastic.
So I'm happy to talk to people there, and I'm consulting and advisory kind of roles. I'm Adrian CO, so you don't have to spell Cockcroft correctly.
Nice.
Which is a problem. But I'm on Twitter occasionally. I'm trying to move to Mastodon now, so
we're all trending in some which way. We
in the middle of an event, we've been told we've got to move over. But
exactly.
And I actually did have somebody. I remember it was a couple of years ago, and I met you in the speakers lounge, and somebody came up with this. I think I just saw Simon Wardley in the speaker lounge. I'm like, no, you saw Adrian Cockcroft. But if you only see just the profile picture and don't see the height and more, it's always funny that.
Well, I didn't have a profile for a long time. I had a picture of a unicorn on a cloud. Was my Twitter.
Nice.
Anyway, so you can DM me or find me fairly easily on LinkedIn or whatever. So.
Actually, that's what I did. I DM'd. That's how he's here. I dropped him a message. He's like, yeah, let's do it. We jumped on a call. So, Adrian, I really appreciate you joining us.
It was Aaron that connected me.
Yes. I mean, that was really great. So this is all what it's about, this entire event. My name's John Myer. You can follow us at LV Reinvent 22. Adrian, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to pass it off to Eric to do the closing for our break, and we're going to get you out of here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right, folks. So we are going to take a quick break, and we're going to switch up our speakers. We're going to get folks sorted out. We want to thank Adrian for taking the time. Again, Adrian, a fantastic follow, really doing interesting stuff about being, as the Gretzky quote goes, skating where the puck is going. And I've really enjoyed how Adrian approaches building ecosystems to be prepared for what needs to happen, and really working tightly with partners. So fantastic work. Loving the idea around CXL. So I'm going to, it's a near and dear thing to what I've been working on with a couple of my partners and some of the startups that I'm working with and advising. So if anybody else is keen, there you go. That's a shout out to Jay Metz as well. I know you're out there somewhere. His ears perked up. He heard CXL being mentioned. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. So make sure you do join the conversation, drop a comment live. And if you have any questions along the way, just follow hashtag LV Reinvent 22, and we will see you right back.
We are joined actually not by one, but not by two, but three members of the Optics Team. Okay, so I will not spoil, only because and Savanna and I haven't actually officially done a podcast and talked much further than actually on Chime for some events. But anyway, I'm not going to spoil some things. I'm going to lead things off and let Alex do her introduction, and then we'll go over to Savanna. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. So I'm Alex Head. I've been on the podcast before. Not 2 times like Steph over here, but that's okay. And I am head of optimization for our strategic industries. I run the optics team. And this year we have a great female showing for the optics team and hitting the ground running today.
You've got a lot going on in both the problem you're solving and the team you got here. I imagine you're as exhausted as we are, and we sit and we're exhausted. I can't even imagine what it's like to have to be back and forth, and it's exciting. So thank you for joining us today, Alex.
Thank you for having us.
All right,
Savanna.
Yeah, my name is Savanna Jenson. I am a senior customer enablement specialist on the optics team at AWS, and I need to get a little bit closer to the mic.
Hey. So listen, I try to do this stuff behind the scenes so that everybody kind of gets it. The cameras are not on me when I do that, but don't worry, we got.
Luckily, we've learned that it's actually generally accepted on podcasts. People are like, can you scooch a little closer to the mic? Like
Perfect.
it used to be all about like even. Like people said, like your microphones are really big, and like we've seen so many video podcasts that we don't even question it anymore. So but thank you. I know it's always a tricky thing.
It's part of the get up at this point to have the whole audio set up. It's part of the vibe for sure.
Yeah.
You mean like this whole
Behind the
entire
scenes.
thing?
Yeah.
Like
Behind the
literally,
scenes.
you're getting
Recording
behind the
the
scenes
studio.
and during the scenes with this entire setup. So once again, my name's John Myer. We are live streaming here for the AWS reInvent. You can follow us on hashtag LV reInvent 22. Go to gtmdelta.com/live for all your live streaming needs during this entire event. So, Alex, let's jump into things a little bit because having you on my podcast, I got an insight on a lot of things. First of all, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. We had to add one more to the girl crew here. So
There you go.
Wait,
the
is it
pressure's on. So girl,
congratulations.
I mean,
Wait a second. Did you share that?
Simply told the unborn baby that if it wasn't a girl, she couldn't come to reInvent. So
Makes
Wait,
sense.
is this a reveal?
Exactly.
Wait, oh wow, we got the inside scoop. So, Alex, reInvent, obviously haven't been here for what we say last year is like.
Yeah, when we say
2019.
last year, it means 2019.
There was a reInvent last year. We actually got a chance to meet during that time. There's a lot of exciting things happening with it. When you were on my podcast, we explained what optics is and how you came about the name and talk about it. So you want to share a little bit about what you and your team does around it?
Yeah. So my team is dedicated to strategic industries within AWS. So that is a subset of customers. And each person is dedicated to a specific industry. Both Savanna and Steph, who can wave in.
Sorry, we got Steph over there. We can sneak her in. She's in the in the groom cam there, but
they're both dedicated to telco, and it is our job to make our customers more efficient. And we are trying to save them money, enable them, teach them to fish, and drive those cost savings for them. So anything and everything save money, which is a very, very hot topic right now.
And there's a lot of courses and sessions happening here. We're going to talk about a couple of those, even though they might be full. We're going to tell you some tips and tricks on maybe possibly how to get in. No insider stuff. But we still want to talk about some of those sessions and everything going around so that your team's responsible. Savannah, what are you responsible for? What are some of your customers doing that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm responsible for making sure that my customers are successful financially on the AWS platform. So really every part of that cloud financial management journey. We're doing a lot of cost visualization right now, making sure that they have line of sight into everything that they're spending and can understand all of those kind of nuances of the billing data. And that's a lot of what my session is about as well. So it is a walkthrough of some of the cloud intelligence dashboards, little hands-on with the cost and usage report, and kind of a how-to on how to pull out those insights and nuances out of the data that AWS does provide you.
We were very happy. We had Adrian Cockcroft just join us prior to your team coming on, and he talked about the advantage of offering optimized cost experiences for Amazon customers. And it seems sometimes sort of counterintuitive.
I was just about to ask that question.
It's difficult sometimes to manage a sales force who's typically powered by quotas, powered by spiffs. And to then be able to have this and then really get them 100% customer obsessed, as the sort of the phrasing goes, but really seeing it out that it's better for them to spend less money, get an optimized experience, and in doing so, they're more likely to adopt other services. And it's not a reciprocal thing. It's literally just they're doing right for the customer versus themselves. It just so happens that it often will turn into a greater long-term adoption.
It's my favorite ask, or my favorite question, I guess, because a lot of people will say, well, how does that work with the sales force? Because our team sits in the sales organization. We are tied very, very closely to the sales teams. A lot of times, I mean, especially Savanna is basically a part of the sales team for her customer. And I know this is going to sound very Kool-Aid, and I get it, but it really just is the culture. Like I probably, when I first started out, got a few questions here and there from newer salespeople of, well, wait a minute, are you going to take my quota away? But it's a lot more rare than you think, and it is a really cool part about what we're doing.
So what I think is very interesting with AWS is we're talking about a lot of cost optimization, but why wouldn't you want to use more of my services, right? I mean, why do I want you to be cost optimized? And I think one of the things, and I'm not going to answer this question for you, Savanna, I'm actually going to turn to you and ask this question is, having them be cost optimized, do you feel that they're actually utilizing more services and getting the benefit of the cloud, what it's meant to be?
So I think we all want our customers to be successful on the platform. And again, I feel like that sounds pretty cool, lady, too. But generally, when you're being more efficient and optimizing, you're using AWS in a way that works better for you. You're making these technical choices that are better for your business and just more sophisticated on the platform. And that really pays dividends for everybody, right? If you're using the services well and your AWS footprint is something that you feel good about and you're doing things by the book in terms of best practices and creating new solutions on how to serve your own business better, that really serves all of us. And that's the outcome that we all want, right?
And then the innovation factor kicks in because the more customers that are using these adjacent services, then you're seeing the patterns play out. That moves all the way to customer success, support, and it's amazing when you connect all those dots together. Like we've had 17 tickets for this function, and then let's feed it back to product management, and let's look at product teams across like most product companies, especially if they've got two products in one company. It's like they're two companies. It is really difficult to manage a portfolio of products that each have to have their own interconnects. And like we've seen it before in some situations, even in single vendor. I don't want to call out a specific one. Let's just say a single large virtualization vendor where they would announce a new feature and then none of the other adjacent management platforms could use that feature for a year because they hadn't developed the product yet. Like, how could you possibly have a roadmap that doesn't do this? And like, well, it's hard. I'm like, I don't know, Amazon did a pretty solid bloody job at it. So.
Well, I think this is a good pivot into Steph. Can we bring you in for a sec?
Yeah.
Well, you're on the mic.
That's right.
Sorry.
Exactly.
We're
already switching out the team. This is how fast we are.
I do want to. You guys swap and I'll intro it. Yeah, you can hear me. But Steph and I got this question yesterday, and we talked for a long time about it. But it's the shift that we're seeing happen of cost optimization is no longer this like one-time thing, this one-time modernization, this one-time cleanup. It is truly like adopting the process. And, a lot of people say, well, like, I'll use the example of security again. You're gonna hate me. You're gonna hear the word security like 10 times this week. It's okay.
But if we need to, because apparently it's been forgotten by people. So please do mention as much as possible.
So you don't ever think twice about having an engineer, hiring an engineer that might have certifications or certain things in security, right? And that becomes part of their practice. That becomes part of their resume, what they do. That's really where FinOps is going. And so it is about kind of having that all evolving together roadmap. And I think Steph has some really good points of kind of how to enable the teams to get that feeling, right? And no longer having like necessarily 1 or 5 FinOps people, but making it part of their knowledge base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So real quick, before you answer that, Steph,
Yeah,
how about an introduction? Because, we come on all warm. Like,
that'll teach us we need 5 microphones next time around. We apologize that we don't mean to have to swap folks out. Don't worry, Savanna, you're coming back. You can't get rid of us that easily.
Yeah. So, Steph, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, guys. Steph Gooch here from the UK. I'm a senior commercial architect in the Optics team. And like Alex said, I work with Savanna, doing telco customers mostly. And I have a Twitch show called The Keys to AWS Optimization with Alex and Savanna as well. So that's where I spend most of my time doing, telling my customers and a lot of other people how to optimize in the cloud.
I love the methods that you're bringing this information to the market, because we have to effectively meet the developers, and we've often found that we're more and more of us gnarly old data center ops teams. I say this, proudly of building a lot of server racks for over a couple of decades, as the frown lines around my eyes would tell you. We get stuck in this idea of like being where we are and never leaving that community. Now we're seeing more Twitch, more Discord, more other ways to interact with these communities, both the customer and the developer community in general. and introduce them to concepts and learnings, and then they themselves, we've got a whole new batch of content creators who are doing their own thing. It's funny, we've got Catherine, who's known as Blondie Bites on YouTube. She's going to be joining us remotely on Thursday, and she is a developer as well as really a true developer advocate type of personality, and she loves doing stuff. Fantastic. So you go follow Blondie Bites. We're happy to have her join us on Thursday. But I love that. Twitch is like, at first you're like, seriously, we're gonna go to Twitch? You're like, no, that's where people are.
People constantly ask me like, are you a gamer? And I'm like, no, you don't want me to play games with you. I suck. But it's really good fun. We're doing Build Live. So at the moment, reInvent is taking over Twitch for AWS, and so Build Live is on, and me and Yuri from the CID team are going on tomorrow at 2:30. We're going to do a live, like we're going to act out a CloudFormation template, which is going to be funnier than it sounds. Hopefully.
You're going to act out. Whoa, wait a second. When is this happening?
So tomorrow at, I think at 2:30. I could check.
Okay. We gotta share this out. We're gonna act this out.
Yeah, it's rather than watching us deploy a CloudFormation template, and because it's quite a complex one, we're gonna kind of act it out, use props, and kind of have fun with it, so that people kind of maybe understand what it's building rather than it being a black box.
Any chance that the new mascot is going to make it? Did you see that S3 has a bucket?
I mean, we're going to have a bucket. I don't think it's going to be that big,
listen, let me talk to Brendan. Let me talk to Brendan from S3. There's an event. We got to get a bucket over. I'm just kidding.
I'm taking that bucket home with me on the plane. I'm not sure if anybody knows this. This is we're going to see if we can sneak that one through TSA.
I think it will be flagged. I'm just saying.
Alex. Random bucket interlude here. So I'm from Atlanta, where Home Depot is based, and their mascot is Phil the bucket,
the orange bucket.
And it's just,
Phil the bucket.
Nice
that's good.
Little interlude there.
So wait a second, we need something for us. You know what? By the end of this, week, we're gonna have something for them.
Well, and say I can selfishly call out my daughter is a neo pro snowboarder, and she leads out a group and a skateboard crew and a snowboard team in Kelowna, BC. And she, learning from my craziness in marketing, she calls them the Womb Tang Clan. It's an all-girl skateboard and snowboard crew. So like that, I love this idea. We often get stuck in trying to address representation and being truly representative of who are the consumers of our platforms. And so it is so nice to see that you obviously are, we are strong in really, really good voices and bringing stuff to this team. But that in itself is not the only reason why you're fantastic, because you're, legitimately bringing incredible stuff to the customer experience, and we need more and more of that. It's just it's absolute bonus fries that see we more better diverse representation on who is there. Because look, the developer audience today, they're probably, if someone looked at the demographics, rightly so, they are dominantly moving towards a greater female population.
We're trying.
Good on it.
You're doing it and adding one more to it.
Yeah,
so.
Yes. Wait, John, I just realized you don't have your purple hair this year.
So we discussed this. we had a discussion.
I was the bad dad, and I made him not do it.
Wow. Just for the cameras. Was it like an effect?
No, it wasn't. So I talked to him and I said, I don't think I'm going to do my hair this year. And it's not about me. It's about the audience. It's about our sponsors and our guests. So I, as weird it is, I had to tone it down this year. And I may have toned it down in the hair color, but I haven't toned it down in the social stuff. So I at least taken it up a notch a little bit. So
thankfully we have John as our social maven. If it wasn't for the fact that he's driving traffic out here, I would just be doing this in the dark, and then we just
him and I would be talking all day, and this might get a little bit
plug for social. Steph, Savanna, and I are posting on LinkedIn daily a question of the day. So we spend most of our days either in our sessions that we're running, which we'll give you the list of, or directly with customers. And so we've been kind of compiling the common questions of each day that we've been getting and throwing out a cloud financial management FinOps question of the day. So go check us out on LinkedIn. I'm sure I'm probably tagged in something that John's put up. So you can.
You just were. I literally just got done on my phone. So I am the guy that sits here on my phone and my laptop, and I'm taking pictures while things are going on. So, and I got to get things out as quick as possible.
He just gives me a little nudge, and then I switch to the right camera, and then he gets up, does a thing.
So if you see the leg tapping, he's not smiling because he knows that if I give him a number one here, he switches to a single cam, and then I can go do my thing. and get it going. But yes, you have been tagged on a number of things. What's one of the questions?
Well, yesterday was where does FinOps sit in the organization? Because so like in like the blueprint of the organization, we had many debates yesterday of, everyone's different, but is it a FinOps team? Is it getting those FinOps kind of like what you say, like a certification and making your engineers and developers have that knowledge source? Or is it a FinOps person and all the engineering teams? Like, how does it look? And kind of gathering the different blueprints that we're seeing with our customers. Steph, Savanna, and I work with very, very, very large customers. And so sometimes we don't get to see some of the smaller scale or more lean running scales of that model.
What I've always enjoyed is the introduction of FinOps as an awareness factor, at least for the deployers. And because even just in operations, right, it's very difficult between the development team and the operations team. And we often said like, oh, we're a DevOps shop. I'm like, no, you've got 3 people that use Puppet to deploy their application to the cloud. That's DevOps for them, but you've got 78 other applications that are managed by a traditional ops team. And we've got traditional waterfall development. There's it's tough to stage it in. And then the FinOps work, it's a bit of the island of lost toys sometimes inside the organization. Everybody knows they have a responsibility, like especially now, the economic state of the world. We are really looking for where we can maximize ROI. It's not about spending less. It's like, what do we get the most out of what we've got today? We cannot pull back. You can't shut it all down. So how do we maximize what we get? How do we move faster, leverage that? And I worked with the FinOps Foundation.
Oh, speaking of that,
that's
cool.
a
good segue as an original member of the FinOps, right?
Yeah, OG member. I've been there for a while now.
Yeah, OG right here in the house. So, and talking about it, actually, let's spin that into some of the questions that are happening. All you have a cost optimization courses here at reInvent. I would love to know the stats, given the state of the current economy, that how quickly they filled up.
Do you know?
Main conversation on the way over here. Savanna was like, do you think we could get those stats? I was like, I don't know.
I think you can in true Amazon style. Like, you should be able to get the stats because I did a literally a week long choose your own adventure every single day, like multiple types of courses from MGM to Mandalay all the way to Venetian and doubled up. The cost optimization courses that are offered here at reInvent have probably superseded any other cost optimization courses in previous years. I mean, there was probably 10 maybe last year or the year before virtualization. There are, I'm going to go off like 30, 40 plus courses given by a diverse number of members all over the world.
And there was also, when I was talking about our session for the cloud intelligence dashboards, so they're a big tool that we like to promote. And there are so many sessions that are not connected to the core team that are bringing those dashboards in to the conversation. So like we have a list of them and it's stuff that's not even about cost in the main talk, but they're bringing that into the conversation a lot to be like, use this tool to support your business. So it's getting involved with other parts.
That's been a really cool part. I will say, I mean, because cloud intelligence dashboards, shout out to Ali. She was supposed to be here with us, but the person who originally made the cloud intelligence dashboards, they were really for the visualization side, right? To understand cost and usage. And this year at reInvent, we got pinged like at least 5 or 10 times about other groups, product teams that were having sessions that wanted to use the dashboards to display their data. Like the marketplace team is doing it. I know that we talked a little bit to the S3 team about it. So it's really cool to see people like treating that cost and usage world as more of like a way to see the data versus like just finance and my bill and my budget.
Well, I saw the ML. There was a number of ML courses that had cost optimization in them as one of the key things. So if you actually go to the portal and check out all the reInvent sessions and type cost optimization, and you can pick your current days, like EMR has one that says cost optimization. ML has cost optimization. That's how I listed all the courses for the entire.
I don't know if you're on Chime, but I did chime you the ones that were in.
Okay, well, let's do this. I'm always on Chime.
That's how we roll.
And I know I'm doing a quick time check because I know we got to run at some point.
We got to move you from one place to another.
What time? How much?
Like 5 more minutes.
Well, I want to get
All right.
Savanna back on here then, just for a couple of minutes. So let's go through some of these.
Let me pivot with Savanna then.
Okay.
Trade out.
All right. So while you're trading out, we'll switch.
Sorry
over
about
to
all
me.
the musical chairs. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
first of
yeah.
all, Steph, thank you
First
very
of
much.
all, wait, Alex, put that back on. We're probably ending that for a second. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I know AWS, Amazonians are so busy during this time, and that carving out a little bit of time, it's really appreciated. Bringing, the optics team or most of the optics team here is definitely nice to give everybody the insights on cost optimization. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, definitely. And then a couple things to leave with. I don't know if you can see my laptop, but AWS Cost News Bot is our team. You can go on Twitter. It's just picking up any cost optimization announcements around that. It's just
all right. So it's
automatic.
at AWS Cost News Bot.
Yep.
AWS Cost News Bot.
And then go on LinkedIn. I've put our Twitter, I put our Instagram on there. Engage with us. Let us know what you want to hear. I know cost optimization is so top of mind for everyone. So tell us what would be helpful. We want to know that piece. All right, trading out with Savanna.
All right.
Beep, boop. I, for one, welcome my cost optimization bot overlords. This
All
is
right.
fantastic.
So while you're switching now, I'm going to go through a couple of things. You have Chalk Talks happening, COP 208, Optimized Forgotten AWS Services, featuring none other than Steph Gooch right here, right in front of us, and for that. So, Steph, when is that taking place?
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Oh,
Happening.
11:30.
Oh, hey, everybody, if there is ever a chance that the sessions are completely full, stand in line. 5 minutes later, if they are not, they will let you in. Okay, going back, COP 205, simplify your AWS cost estimation. COP 218, and COP, I'm assuming, is cost optimization.
No, it's cloud operations.
Is it?
Yeah.
Man, I'm wrong.
So,
Cloud
All right, thank you
abstract.
for
to break that news. We're part
Someone-
of the cloud abstract.
Do we get a prize? Do we have a John is wrong jar? Because
We
he's
gotta
never
teach
wrong.
us one.
That would be full. We're just going to move on. So anyway, COP 218, demystifying cloud unit economics. Wow, these are I've highlighted all these in my thing. COP 202. They have breakout COP 205, COP 203, COP 207. Savanna. Oh, here we go. Savanna COP 336. Yes, I've highlighted this one too. For visualize, understand, and manage your AWS costs. COP 335, and then Alex just stepped aside, but COP 307, track and visualize your AWS costs and usage. KPI targets featuring none other than Alex Head from the optics teams. Okay, I highlighted all those courses. Everybody, you got to take a look at those. And joining us back is Savanna.
Welcome
Savanna,
back,
thank you.
Savanna.
Hey, musical chairs. You were over here. Now you're here.
Yeah, somebody has to be the sticker fairy in between too. We've
I
got
know.
a bunch
Uh,
of stickers.
we-
If you have more stickers, that bucket over there, plus my daughter in the other room is loving all the stickers. She goes, "Oh my God, you got to get me more." And I'm like, I'll get
Nerds love
plenty of
stickers.
those. Yeah.
We do enjoy a good sticker farm, so
Yeah.
it's great.
All right, I know we got about a couple of minutes left, and I got to keep Eric on target here and what's happening. So, Eric, I'm going to lead you with some.
Well, we've definitely learned a lot on, like I said, the human connection to cost optimization. Where do we make sure that we are doing the right thing where we can empower people to be aware so then they can introduce practices and procedures and processes. Sorry, I'm Canadian. so I say
Processes.
And we took a long time for people to understand that they can see this data because and you're merging much more than just raw cost. Like there's data coming from many sources, and we saw what's going on with QuickSight, with like all of the visualization platforms within the AWS ecosystem. I can imagine that there are fantastic dashboards. The data's there; it's just there to be had, and then we just have to learn to mine it. And in fact, one of my run crew this morning was wearing a data miner hat. She's one of the AWS crew, so that was fantastic. And that's where it is. There's gold in them thar hills, as they would say.
Yeah, we're getting more into it as well. Like the lab that we're going to do that demo of acting out the cloud formation is the optimization data collector, which is basically how to create an optimization data lake and a way of getting the data.
When you say act this out, I'm envisioning you grabbing
Just wait and
props
watch,
in your
John.
I
That's
know.
it. That's-
I'm envisioning
no.
2:45 build live on Twitch AWS. Check it
I'm
out.
serious. Like
We have props. I was going to get a shirt made, but we didn't have time.
You have props. This is going to be interesting. I'm going to end with a question. So the Cost Explorer was just redone, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a new interface on it, and we're seeing some good feedback coming around it. What was the whole idea? And if you have any on the revamping of it, more visualization, granular controls of your data that's happening. Oh, Savanna, I see you're excited. We're coming over to you. She's like, yeah.
I'm like, I know this one.
Glad he asked this question.
Yeah, so I think some of it was exactly as you said, more granularity. Ooh. More controls and kind of a.
There's a lot of IDs. There's granularity, observability, all these IDs that we got to worry about.
Exactly. I gotta get the enunciation right. It's only day 2, man.
It's never day 2.
Day 2 of reinvent.
Yeah.
But part of the kind of movement behind that is we're migrating the console to a new framework. If you've seen kind of a new look and feel in other places. Yes. So the Cost Explorer redesign was absolutely part of kind of that as well, to make sure that it's a unified experience and to make sure that everything kind of looks and feels the same and is usable.
Yeah, the work that happens on the UI UX side of it is they're the unsung heroes of it, because we often say that good UX is not obvious, bad UX is. And it really is tough because you have constantly moving parts. We talked about product challenges across ecosystems, and then a lot of these products they were built, sometimes they were acquired and then adapted, and to be able to merge that together, give it a common experience is fantastic. And just, the consistency of the user, just the UI, just the visibility. It's so funny how nuanced it is, but it's like when you walk into a room and you say, I'm going to paint this room, when it's halfway done, you're like, eesh. But then the moment it's done, you don't realize that you painted the room. It just looks like it belongs. And that's where you and the team are doing. That's great.
Yeah, I feel like especially because Amazon fosters such a culture of innovation, teams are encouraged to experiment and build new things. So that glue and making sure that everything fits together is so important.
I love how they allow you to just go and run and do it, right? You don't even have to ask people. You just go and do it, and they're like, that's good. And if you fail, it's like, all right, what did you learn? Yeah. Okay, let's improve on that. And there were so many innovations that came out of AWS, out of Amazon from failure, that are actually very positive, that I love that they stuck with it and people do it. Some of the things that are going around like AWS Game Day with Danny, who kind of started that whole thing. And I actually was joining him on a couple of, I was like at the tail end of the creation of it. And I love what they came up with it. What about like, okay, so this isn't really like a cost optimization question, but it is a visibility. Man, I can't speak either. This is at the end of the show.
We're only on day 2. We got another
I still have my
hours
voice.
Of streaming. It's a good time.
The Resource Explorer. So now you can type in and find any resource. By the way, so last year, oh my God, Savannah's going to
like this. So stoked about this.
Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Savannah. One of the things that one of the things was visualizing my resources and being able to search it besides clicking on the UPC. Yeah, oh my God, VPC. Man, I need to. Yeah, we'll call it. Anyway,
we're almost done for the day.
The VPC and searching for like a route or an incident, and going around and finding my gateway. All this stuff was really difficult. Now you can just type it in, do a / type in, and you're finding it. I mean,
universal search at a single platform layer is almost an untenable, intractable problem to solve, and you've done it across
But it goes
a
to cost optimization because now I can see all of my resources.
The Kerr data, just like it. I got this news when I was on site with a customer, and it lit up my entire day because we had just been talking about how difficult it can be to actually track down a resource once you pinpoint something that you need to investigate. And then Resource Explorer came in and we were like, oh my gosh, let's go to the Kerr right now and let's test this out. So I'm really excited about it.
Okay, Steph, have you used it? No. How are your customers? I mean, I saw it. I did a
It's so inside baseball, you haven't even had a chance to try it out yourself.
Things come out. People were like, oh, have you had any announcements from reInvent yet? And I was like, no, I've just been in a bubble running between meetings, so we haven't heard anything. But I'm inspired now by Savanna's.
The resource that I found it, I was in the console the other day, so I spun up my own, another one, not my own, like my 4th AWS account. And I've started out, this was according to our whole Twitch that I joined. So I set up my own account, and the whole thing behind it was I haven't deployed a single resource in it. I want to see the cost that sits there and it just runs. And then all of a sudden I saw resources. So I hit the tag. I'm like, wow, this is this is a huge improvement. Just like when they started actually putting the region names next to the actual region, when the drop down and you saw like, this is Ohio. No. This is US East 1B. Like you actually, or US East 2, you knew where it was associated. Everybody knows what 1 is. Virginia, but kind of going through in the actual regions behind
Boy, do
them.
we ever.
Airport
Well,
codes, all the
I
airport
feel the pain.
codes.
I remember, so it's my funny story. I came years ago, and we were on the way in, and someone said, oh, I'm here for an event. And they're like, oh, neato. And they said, do you like to gamble? I said, yes, I run all my production on single instances in USD's one.
Nice. All right. So I know you
Zing.
guys got to get out of here. So I'm going to wrap things up. Steph, where can people get a hold of you, reach out to you? LinkedIn, Twitter, Mastodon, Smoke, whatever.
Chime, all the places.
Right. Oh, do not
Carrier
tell people
pigeon.
about Chime.
John is the only person I speak to on Chime.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I am on Live Like a Nerd. That's my handle on all social medias. Or you can email me at AWS Steph at Amazon.com. It's probably the best thing. And I'm on LinkedIn, all the socials.
you actually have two handles on Twitter, don't you? Like Live
Oh,
Like
I've
a
covered
Nerd,
them all
AWS
just in
Steph,
case.
or
I
whatever
wanted
it
to
is.
keep both.
I'm not sure which one to
There's
tag
the-
when I
It's
do
Live Like a
things.
Nerd is the
Okay,
main
I
one.
always get an AWS Steph. Live Like a Nerd will be the new ones that I'll post on that. Savannah?
I'm Sav Gents on basically everything. I usually use LinkedIn the most, or Jensensa, Jensensa, my last name, and then the first two letters of my first name, at Amazon.com.
All right. So, everybody, just a huge shout out. Thank you so much for the optics team joining us, from Alex, Steph, Savannah. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, you can follow us on LV Reinvent 22 or gtmdelta.com/live for all your stuff. We've got a lot going on, so don't worry about it, folks. We got some more information on the way. Steph, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Savannah, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
I'm going to leave things here with Mr. Eric Wright. Oh, by the way, I got to spoil it. Did you know it's his 50th birthday today?
Happy
I know.
He is
birthday!
5.0.
I'm older than dirt.
5.0 version here while we're out at reInvent,
I'm
right?
officially 0.5 centuries old.
You will be
And I got-
5.1
I got-
next year.
We got to go for a run this morning, and
Did you do the 5K?
I do. Yeah, I lead.
Ah.
I
He leads
lead
it.
a daily
That's his
5K
thing.
run group.
Yeah.
It's not the 5K, so
No.
there is an official 5K that is
Oh.
running tomorrow. I run something called #VFit. I've did it at conferences for years because it just happened as like fellow runners, and I thought, why not? Let's do it. And it's at this point, my friend Rob, who's actually in the back there, is a regular player in the group. We had about 25 people this morning, or 20 people, and we met Elvis at the Las Vegas sign. He was there
Twice.
yesterday, which is, yeah, it's just a good fun way to do it. So yeah, people do go register. I don't know if you can still register, but definitely a few of my run group today are registered for tomorrow's run. And of course, most importantly, go check out the Twitch stream. It's 2:30. And look, if you got a choice between watching this or watching Twitch, get on over.
Yeah.
Get
Act
on
it
over
out. I want to see this act out,
and-
so this is going to be
and
pretty
live
good.
like a nerd and do it right. And thank you again, both of
Yep.
you, Steph. It's fantastic to watch the way that you create engagement, and that's what we need, because it's just too easy to go like, we'll pump out a blog and people will just get it. And the fact that you can go further than the blog, add the narrative. I love the story method of storytelling through it, and people detect it when you have fun. It's absolutely infectious. So which is great. So and again,
right.
Savannah, thank you very much. Thank you all. And with that, all right, we'll begin to switch out the chairs. We're actually getting ready to wind down. We're just in the final moments of things. So thank you to all the folks who've joined us today. We've had an incredible array of fantastic speakers. We've had people that have joined us for the stream. We've had lots of great comments. I apologize, I didn't get to get them all on screen because we were moving pretty quickly, but I want to say thank you to all the folks. And of course, if you want to keep track of this, just follow #LVReinvent22. Go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. There's a link to the schedule each day. We're going to post recaps, and that will be a long living area where we're going to post all the content, and you can get access to it on YouTube. And easy to consume. If you have any questions along the way, please do drop a comment. It will come through, and I promise I'll get better at reading those comments on screen. So thank you to the folks. Wow, what a day. It is officially sort of day one as far as the keynotes go. It's been fantastic. We've had our group that's joined us in the suite, which is pretty cool. And if you are in the area and you want to join us live, then head on over to Vidara between 8:30 and 11:30 each day. So we're going to do this for 2 more days. And if you want to do that, just come down to the bottom, and we've got either somebody who's in an orange shirt or an orange sweater, super easy to spot, or wearing a gray shirt with the Myer Media logo, very easy to spot. And even just drop us a DM. My DMs are open. I'm at Disco Posse, and of course _John Myer, JONMYER. Make sure you follow John and go head over to johnmyer.com. He's had lots of great podcasts with the folks that we've talked to today. We couldn't do this without the people. Number one, you. the people that are here sharing this story and bringing us, incredible commentary. It means a lot that we've been able to do this, be a part of the community in person, and it's a real new way. We want to create a true practitioner-led, practitioner-focused media, engagement. How can we better make sure that the people that are doing and building can learn from each other? It's even beyond. I've worked in mentoring groups, and the one-to-ones are fantastic, but it's just not scalable. So what can we do to create a true cross technology, cross vendor, cross platform community? And look, we've had AWS join us. Like, we literally
Wow,
have, it's tough to imagine how much this means to us, because there are a lot of hoops that people have to jump through to make sure they can be here, just physically timing it. And on top of that, we can't say enough about the companies that are giving their time and even supporting the event directly and doing it in a way they ask nothing back, which is just incredible.
Huge shout out to all our guests, all our sponsors that have joined us today. Is definitely taking the time not only to make it way over here, but to give us their insights that are happening on reInvent and some of the things that are changing. Yes, Adam Soliski did wrap up his keynote about an hour ago or something. We've been bringing you some of the highlights, but also the insights, not only from technical advisors, but those who are members and head of the optimization and optics team around cost optimization. As you know, cost is a huge benefit for everybody right now as they're being aware of things that are going on. So a shout out to that. We've got a lot more happening this week: podcasts, live streams, panels, you name it. A huge shout out to you, Eric, for you and I putting on this event. I don't know how the heck we did it, but
we'll know on Friday.
We'll know on Friday when we are totally exhausted. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to LV reInvent 22. You can follow us on all social media channels.
And, of course, shout out as well to Christine and Kirsten and all the rest
our
of the team.
crew. That we would not be possible here. So my wife, Christine, my daughter, Kirsten, joining us and helping us out with this entire event. They are behind the scenes. In fact, downstairs at the elevators, bringing people up and down. Now, imagine sitting for like 3 hours and kind of shuffling people back. Well, I'll tell you what, that's true dedication and a family.
And there's
atmosphere.
one quick logo. You're going to get Ben slide over in there and turn around. I want to get that logo on the shot here. Come on in. There you go. So this is the Ben, you are GROB number 4 ever on Twitter, and we'll talk tomorrow about what you can do. Or heck, we got a few minutes left. Hop on, grab a seat. This is how we're going to roll here. And what I want to talk about, Ben, is this opportunity for us to create practitioner-led, community-focused content where we leverage the opportunity with our relationship with vendors and partners to help create a place in which we can do it, help fund it, give back to the community. But everybody's been fantastic. No one has said like, hey, you got to use our product for us to send money your way. They've really, really been focused. And of course, you and I go back with VMUG and a lot of other places. So do a quick intro and I'd love to hear. We'll talk more as we get into tomorrow and Thursday as well.
My name is Ben Clayton. I used to be president of the VMware user group back in the day. I run the AWS user group for Kansas City. I've been part of DevOps Days Kansas City, and I'm currently starting a vendor agnostic group that's going to put on events called Bad Tech. Hopefully I'll have a chance to talk more about that tomorrow.
We definitely will. Yeah.
And just a huge fan of the value that the community brings together. Everybody can bring each other up, and everybody's better off for it.
That's it. Yeah. And I think if I was given anything that I could say was the most meaningful thing I've gathered from working in these technologies is the people that I've met and grown alongside. Because how many times we said like, hey, I've got a problem. That's how blogging started, was just like, hey, I've got a problem. I'm going to find the solution. I'm going to write about the solution. And then somebody Googles it and they find the answer. And we created this funny ecosystem of the bloggers, the V bloggers. And then now it's moved to cloud and cloud native. And we're seeing as new technologies come in that there's a missing piece, which is a true cross platform, cross discipline opportunity. And I said we got a couple folks as well jumping into the room. We'll see folks that we'll talk to in over the course of the next couple of days. Brad Parks from Morpheus is going to join us there. So Brad is an amazing human as well as a fantastic technologist. He taught me everything I need to know about marketing, and I'm still learning on a daily basis. So I love that chance. Of course, Rob from RackN here supporting
we
us
got,
as well. We
Ethan
got
from PTP, who's going to be joining us next. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to bring him on.
We were worried that
we were going to end this at 11:30. Do you know we need to not have anything scheduled for like 2 hours after these events, because we always tend to go over.
So the good news is we were concerned about timing of everything, and it is always tricky to pull people together. But Ben, thank you very much. So definitely Bad Tech. We'll share more. We'll talk about it at length tomorrow.
Thanks for putting this on. This is a great event. It's amazing the people that are here.
It's pretty fun.
Thank you so
With
much.
That, we're going to take a quick 5, and we'll be right back.
All right.
With the folks from PTP.
Let's do it.
We are live.
Did you just click live and we're just messing around?
That's how we did.
You know that?
It's the way Myer Media rolls.
Yeah, that's exactly it. All right, kick us thing off with Eric, because we are back. Yeah, I know I said kick it off. I'm going to talk for a second. I know we're ending at 11:30, but we have another guest in the house, and just like any good hospitality, we're going to keep going.
We couldn't resist. So Ethan, thank you very much for jumping on. We'll talk more beyond today, and let's let you do your own intro so we don't butcher titles and such. So we'll talk about PTP, some of the cool stuff that's going on with AWS announcements and such.
I got to do the thing. So as always, this is Mr. Eric Wright. Happy 50th birthday. You can follow us on #LV_reinvent22 or gtmdelta.com/live. My name is John Myer. And with that, Ethan, take it away.
Hey, John, thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Always good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while.
I know. What is it, Miami?
Deep Racer days.
No, Miami.
Oh, Miami.
We were in Miami. Dude, we were getting some sun.
Yeah. But yeah, we're known for the Deep Racer stuff.
Oh, we are definitely. And you guys have been a long time, a great company to work with. Always out there looking to help in any which way. So go ahead,
I appreciate
Ethan.
it. No. Thanks for the time. So Ethan Simmons with PTP, one of the managing partners, one of the founders. Really started off as a AWS partner, born in the cloud native, back in 2017, and really become known recently as an AWS partner around life sciences. So we spend most of our time helping early stage startup life science companies, do their research in the cloud and do it faster, and help them, hopefully find, new cures for diseases, at a faster pace.
Well, and I think that's one of the most important things. We often get stuck in this idea, like I'm a nerd at heart, and I love the technology, I love the announcements, but in the end, it's like what you do with it is fantastic. And I've been incredibly impressed with just the stories that come out of PTP. And the team's sort of like focus on outcomes over technology implementation is very easy for a lot of the early partners where it's moving SKUs, and your team really just does not play that game. You're very much outcome focused, and they're big, fantastic outcomes, which is kind of wild.
Well, it's funny. I had bumped into some guys, AWS sales leadership team in the hallway this morning. We were talking, and probably when we started in 2017, we were sort of asking, hey, how do we get closer to AWS? How do we engage? And, really, they didn't really have a good answer at that time, but the sort of the secret source is it's such a massive company. You really have to, become very good and have a vertical, be able to go to market and have a compelling story. So I think that's, that's been critical for us going forward. So it's been it probably took us a little longer than we'd like to figure that out, but once we did, it made a big difference.
They are such a huge, running machine that you kind of work with one group, but then that same group exists in multiple regions. So you got to start working with them, and you have to know and find your way around the visibility with them. Now, I want to say it's a slow burn, but it's worth it. And you've probably found out that you found a number of ways to actually work in collaboration with them and be efficient.
Yeah. And it's not really, it's vertical by segment, by territory, by geo, it's crazy. So trying to
startup, greenfield, enterprise,
and then every year it changes. So
what we thought was the packaged offering changed a lot, especially over the last 3 years. Obviously, we've seen, people's go-to-market strategy had fundamentally shifted, and then your clients, obviously, especially in health sciences, we've been very busy around trying to innovate quickly and leverage technologies. So there is fast learning, but good on you for, especially as a recent co-founder of a company myself. I know what you think you're going to do, and 3 weeks later, what you're actually doing can be a pretty rapid shift.
No, definitely. Things change fast, but I think that's part of starting that company and having that motivation to figure it out, then you'll figure it out. So, and you'll fail, but I guess the whole thing with the cloud is to fail fast. So try to fail fast,
fail and learn. I mean, it's really
forward,
yeah.
So, Ethan, today Adam had his keynote, and there was a number of releases and efficiencies, not only on the chips and all the instance types. Have you been following? Is there anything that you found interesting on the releases, or that you're wanting to adapt or going to be testing out?
Yeah, so we were lucky to get engaged with the HTLS team, the life science team, around their AWS Optics release. So really, it's a platform to again help life science companies do their research faster, but a lot of it's around data management and storage and more efficiencies and better costs to do that research, because they're dealing with these very large data sets, and it gets expensive for these startups to store all this data and then try to actually use it to do research. So hopefully, we'll start to engage and get this platform rolled out to our customers and allow them to do their research faster at a better price point than what they were able to do before. And that's been a big holdup when we talk to a lot of these startups is, what's this going to cost? And sometimes it's hard in AWS to say, what is this going to cost? I don't know.
It's a variable.
Yeah, exactly. You'll know when the bill arrives.
Yeah.
I don't know how big your data set is. I don't know how long you're going to store it for. I don't know where it's going to sit. So
how much is it going to cost me before I deploy it? Well, that depends on this, and this, and putting it into the lovely old cost calculator.
We had a customer, this week we're talking to one of our new reps who's, his background is genomics, not, he wasn't an IT sales guy, but his background is from a, SaaS genomics provider or data management provider. And, he got hit with the customer. The customer said, well, how much is it going to cost me? Well,
right.
We need to know a bunch of other variables to come up with this number. So,
and there's nothing worse than you have to say that depends. Like, it just seems like such a non-answer, but it is really just, we're getting better at some prediction, but you need to sort of see it in flight. Like just like machine learning, you need to teach machine learning. You need to feed it data. You need to feed it elements, and seeing the work that goes over time.
Yeah, hopefully this platform will make that a little bit easier for us to get those customers moving forward faster.
When you come to the story around the partnership and the announcement that you've had, I've always been amazed by the work, especially on AMD and a lot of folks, that they've got a very strong partner ecosystem that's going to go beyond. We talked with Adrian Cockcroft before about a few things. One thing that came up was computational storage and CXL, and we're going to see more of that's working with HPC, and ultimately that moves into life sciences bits, and then we're going to see it in a couple of years hopefully play out into AWS's ecosystem. They're already, the truth is, they're obviously working on something. We haven't announced it yet, so it's early on, but
it's still early this week. By the way, it's only Tuesday.
Yeah.
But how important for you is really that major vendor partner ecosystem, and being able to leverage what they've got, because they've got really strong customer access. And then I would think that they're incented to expose more technology and help to drive their product roadmaps as you look at how your customers are actually using their platforms.
Yeah, I think for us, and especially around HPC, so most of our customers have some type of high-performance compute footprint. We've been spending a lot of time on what we're sort of calling decomposable high-performance compute, where what we typically run into is that there were people that were running it poorly. And again, it was expensive. It wasn't cost effective. So we've been able to go in. We have a couple case studies up there where, showing these customers how to spin the cluster up, bring it back down again, let the scientists do this at their pace rather than being dependent on IT. But I mean, from a, down at the chip level, probably not as engaged, but as far as helping customers figure out, if they are going to develop their own code, what's the best, how do you optimize it the most? How do you get the most out of it? So, I'd love to be more abstracted from the bits and bytes of that stuff, but that's definitely an opportunity to do more faster.
We hear this thing, and especially as vendors, we say like, well, it's not all about speeds and feeds. That's actually quite fundamentally about speeds and feeds. Like, we do have to get pretty close to the bits. It's hard for us, like I said, there's this right abstraction level, but in the end, your team's capability to be very close to sort of code level understanding, but then also really tie it to the outcome, which is what's really fundamentally missing. A lot of folks are trying to bring services, but it's like pure play, I'll deploy technologies, good luck and may your God go with you. Let me know how it works out. But you really are seeing the outcome and driving towards that. And I imagine that your customers, very pleased compared to what they've probably experienced in the past with some folks that we used to call them VARs, but there was not a lot of V in the VAR.
I think for us too, a lot of the times most of the time just because the person was the chief scientist or the bioinformatician, they got labeled as the IT person. So
Right.
a lot of these AWS environments were sort of spun up sort of haphazardly. As they grow, we're getting brought in and saying, hey, can you run a well-architected review? Can you do a war for us to see, was this put together right? Are we, complying to the framework? How are we managing the environment? Because a lot of times, a new IT person starts, and then I don't know if this AWS environment is, good, bad, ugly. So can you help me figure that out? So that's, spend a lot of time there just trying to, validate the environment and make sure it's, the right, it's in the right state to move forward, both from a performance, but also from a security and cost optimization standpoint.
Well, if you don't mind, let's for
I wanna
folks that
talk
maybe
about
not
that
aware, like the
war real
well-architected
quick. Yeah,
review.
we're on the same. This is scary.
Great minds think alike, and
Where is
coincidentally,
it?
so do ours.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is the well-architected review? We hear about the WAF, of course, the well-architected framework, but the well-architected review is this is a fantastic thing. But a lot of people don't even realize that it's.
And what's the value of it? I mean, what is it, and why would somebody do it?
Yeah, really, the use case for us is this. Someone's gotten thrown into this AWS environment. They don't understand. The person that built it before them is no longer there. Wasn't documented. They don't know what account is doing what. So we'll run the WAR or WAFAR, Well-Architected Framework Review. We have a couple different tool sets that we're using to do that. Cloud Checker is one of them, bought by Spot, but they've introduced a well-architected review component into their platform, which we'll use for our customers. But we'll walk through the 6 pillars now. They added sustainability as a new pillar, but we'll help customers walk through all those different components of a well-architected framework in their environment, and then show them where there's opportunities for improvement or where there's things that are blatantly wrong and they need to fix it right away, and help them optimize, but also evaluate those opportunities for improvement, and help them make those remediations as part of the well-architected review. And what's been interesting is we've offered it as a service on the marketplace, so you can go to the AWS marketplace, look up PTP well-architected review, and buy it on the marketplace, and the customer can. So we're trying to make it more, I guess, frictionless from that standpoint, where those customers don't have to worry about getting a PO and signing a statement of work. Also, the AWS reps, they're eager to do more AWS marketplace transactions themselves.
It's easier. It's very integrated. It's seamless, and it's not a lot of back and forth. It's literally like if you click the button, then it initiates everything.
Yep. So we can do a consulting partner private offer, CPPO, and put that out there, and customers can just click and buy type of thing. So it's been and we've done that now for probably 7 or 8 of our different services on the marketplace.
That's cool. Now, how much of that is systematized work versus there's obviously there's a consultative piece that goes along with it, and there should be and it's always tricky, but I love that marketplace as a delivery mechanism makes procurement easy. They've the channels are already set, makes it so customer friendly, and then they can get to you, and then ultimately their the mileage variance and adapting to their specific requirements then would come in. I'm curious what that engagement looks like once they do that marketplace transaction.
Yeah, so our team will, there's a there's a automated output of the environment that sort of runs through everything that can be automated. But then there is maybe you are doing this certain security setup, or you're doing this type of account creation specifically because of a certain application or some requirement that they felt they had. But that is a one-on-one type of interview process. A lot of times too, in large organizations, there may be multiple business units or different people within the organization that may have different aspects of each pillar under their control. So there is a human interaction aspect of that too, which makes sometimes it's just one person because that's the person that knows the environment, or it could be 5 or 6 people. But we do that as a interaction, not a systematic type of thing. So that is an interview process that we would do, and then come up with the final list of remediations.
But it's good that it effectively gives you that sort of preload of like, here's what we see today, and then you can go and say like anecdotally, like, why did you make these decisions? And then you go back to requirements gathering, but you don't have to start from scratch. Like, okay, let's take a look at your console, which is effectively where a lot of that consultative stuff was happening. So this is such a boost that you can just get right to the questions that matter. And then I think the turnaround for value would be obviously significantly faster.
Yeah, it's just really trying to figure out who and the why of stuff was done.
It's a conversation. And I think a lot of the folks that understand like a well-architected review is it's not an automated process. Some things can be done automatically, right? You can use certain tools that kind of really identify it. And then there's other tools that will remediate it. But the conversation that happens is really where the uncovering happens, right? You really understand, and you have to have like all your stakeholders in the same room to kind of understand that this is how it was set up, and then it's fully documented. It's not all right, here's 2 hours, let's get this done. You actually have to put some effort into it to understand how it was designed as a workload.
Yeah, I mean, all that other stuff is easy. The hard part is getting everyone in the room.
Yes, I actually
at the right time.
Trying to coordinate all this is definitely one of those. It takes a lot of effort, and for them to understand that the value of this and doing a well-architected review. I've sat through, I've done a number of them, and obviously it does. And now I haven't done it since they added the new pillar, so I'm always curious to see how the sustainability pillar is going from a company perspective.
Yeah, to honest, I haven't seen the output of one with the sustainability pillar myself, so I'd have to dig in and take a look. But I think it's definitely getting tracked. But a lot of it comes back down to sort of circling back on the cost op or the FinOp piece too, just making sure you're not wasting cycles for the sake of wasting cycles. But I think that's there is a story there, and I think obviously more and more companies are looking to have that sustainability conversation. So it's good to work that into the overall conversation.
Yeah, and we heard before with the optics folks that were here, and they talked about this idea, like this data is there to be had, and now that you can leverage that data and then drive, like the more you do these wars, they will influence things that you can learn in multiple interactions. Data-driven decisions are still human decisions, but the more data driving that we can do to it is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think around our managed services piece, that's really what we're spending most of our time is we have all this data. We're trying to find ways to present it in ways that bring more value to the customer. So, we have petabytes of data that we've collected on these customers' environments from the tool sets that we're using, but trying to extract it and present it in a way that the customer can take better actions on, or we can take better actions on behalf of the customer for as well. So.
Yeah, nothing, just a sea of grass with little spikes on them. You're like, I'm not sure what to do with this, but it's like looking at your engine graph when you plug in the little unit. You're like, okay, but convert it to human terms and then can map it to business goals and outcomes. And then you can say, well, what we were trying to do here was deploy this new environment. Oh, okay. Well, in doing so, you've gone down a security path that's probably not optimal. And now then that's like where the engagement wins with your team.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think even now we just got the MSSP1.
Oh man, you perfect segue. You beat me to it.
I'm going to throw that out there.
I was sitting here and I was like, okay, you know what? I got to switch gears and talk about that. And Ethan's right on top of that. Okay, Ethan, I kind of gave it away earlier. Is that you had one announcement? You told me you have two announcements, right? That we have to talk about.
Yep.
Let's talk about them. You just called it out. Explain it what it is and the value of not only for PTV, but for customers utilizing your services or utilizing it.
Yeah, I think, the AWS team, the MSP competency is sort of a beast. They've been able to break it down into, sort of smaller chunks. And one of the first ones is this MSSP1 competency, which, obviously really focuses on managed security services so we spend a lot of time, in those customers' environments, helping them make sure their environment is secure and well managed. So that's been the biggest piece. Is really around, especially as in our space where life science customers are starting to move from research to clinical trials, and when they have data that has personally identifiable data, then you start to enter in a whole new realm of security requirements to manage and protect that data. So for us to be able to do that as a service and using as many AWS native services as possible to deliver that has been an interesting journey for us. And now we've been doing it for a long time, but now we sort of have the official AWS stamp on it. So it helps with the conversation.
How's that? How's the partnership? Because I can imagine that we see more and more where AWS seems to be so much more not so much more. They are very partner friendly, and it's often was questioned whether we would have that chance because they generally were very tightly held. Products were moving fast, but I think they're moving into more mature offerings and more mature customer adoption. It seems like the partner ecosystem and including the consultative stuff and the WAFs and the wars, they're probably happy to bring you more real engagements and hopefully help to drive your business.
I think there's a couple things there. So, I've been pitching to AWS for a long time, the whole concept of partner obsession. They talk about customer obsession a lot, which is, great. I think everyone needs to be customer obsessed. But at the same time, it's sort of, harkens back a little bit to some of AWS's mentality of being direct with customers. And you're bringing on all these new sales reps. And I think, AWS is finally getting to the point where I think in this maturity cycle where they realize, hey, in order for us to continue to scale and grow at this pace, we can't hire enough salespeople ourselves. The cost model just doesn't make sense. So if we go and leverage partners, basically we get a free sales team. If we can go out there and educate and train and enhance what our partners can do, it'll just improve customer obsession going forward. So I think we're seeing that as as a huge opportunity for us as the AWS sellers are engaging with partners more. And I think too, probably a little bit of this, not that we're seeing it, but this recession or downturn in the economy where a lot of companies have put brakes on hiring, including AWS. You've heard about it.
Right.
I think it's going to force them even faster to adopt working with partners. So, we're eager to be there and work closely together.
And I think if you look at that's the goal of transacting through the marketplace has always been an interesting goal for them. They wanted to be able to move more to a very simple way in which you could transact in a way that's familiar to their entire ecosystem. So moving to marketplace transaction is great. So now that they've got turned that on for your team and platform to be able to use, it's a boost because before, 2 years ago, you'd be like, well, we need to engage with them, set up, the whole framework and meet and discuss. And now you're like, oh, let's click the button. We get the first draft and then we run with it from there. AWS has got to love that, just because it's a very familiar environment for their customers and for their whole consulting and sales team.
Yeah, I think our conversation is, especially in the SMB and greenfield teams where, a rep may have a list of 1,000 accounts they're trying to touch it. I mean, there's just no way you can do it. So, we're having conversations with that group around, frictionless commerce at scale. So how can we, scale this between, doing stuff like with you guys from a social media standpoint, because there's no way you can hire enough sales reps, even at a partner side, to do that too. So you need to be more creative. And I think there's a lot more work to do on the partner side, especially for us around how can we do more from an inbound demand generation and just greater touch with customers from that standpoint.
We should actually get you to, well, if you have a chance to come by later, JR, who's coming with us from Shift Group.
I bumped into him out in the hall.
Oh, nice.
Oh, dude,
so we used to work together. So we were at
very cool.
This small of a world.
It is.
So he's a Boston guy. So he he was at a former partner that we were part of. So known JR for a while.
That's cool. Yeah, because it's funny when you said about like this idea of like scaling teams, and I know I worked with JR at Turbonomic for years, and we've always stayed close, and it was fun to see him go out and launch Shift Group and this idea of like how do you scale the human side of it in a way that can meaningfully train and scale culture as well as just raw dollar numbers. Like can I get metrics that matter and take people that effectively came from the background of performance, but now let's move them into like from human performance to sales performance. So it's kind of been neat to see how they come together.
Yeah, and we've been having conversations with them too, around sort of the optimal or prototypical rep that we want to hire, and sort of changing the I guess changing that model and finding someone that's really got that vertical expertise versus sort of the traditional IT operations background.
Yeah, nice. Well, John, we've had a heck of a day.
Yes, we
are
have.
super proud.
Did you announce all your announcements?
Are we missing anything?
No, I don't think so.
Are you sure? Because
you want me to make some up? I'll make some up.
You know what? I'll tell you what. It's always a pleasure to have you, Ethan, here joining the show. Anytime you want to come back tomorrow, Thursday. Is AJ here on the ground?
He is.
Oh, you got to bring him in. He's our people. He would have fun here on this. He's definitely a mad scientist on the show. We would get into some weeds with stuff, but it would be great to have him on there. You know what? I'll message him, and we need some influence from you, and send him on over.
I'll get him over here.
Yeah. We'll definitely have a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been informative. We appreciate you sponsoring this event and joining it. Don't forget to grab some swag and stuff on your way.
Yeah, for people that are here as well.
Do the chips work anywhere?
Yeah.
Well,
I
you know what? Try it out and let us know.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you have myself. You need us to bail you
You have
out
to bail,
anywhere. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to do some closing remarks. I'll lead it off with you. So Ethan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. My name is John Myer. You can follow us, hashtag LV Reinvent22. Go to gtmdelta.com/live for all your live streaming. We still have another 2 days of live stream, and it's already 12 o'clock. You know, we were supposed to end like half an hour ago.
It happens to the best. We've learned that 3 hour
That's what I
streams
think.
apparently are 4 hours long.
Yeah,
So happens to the best of
exactly.
us.
And do not schedule anything afterwards. This has been awesome. Thank you to everybody who's joined us. It has been nonstop action packed of people joining us throughout the event, giving their expertise here on AWS Reinvent 22. As always, my name's John Myer, and I'll pass it off to my host.
All right. And yeah, thank you to all the folks that have been watching live. Thanks for the great commentary. We will continue the thrust of social goodness. We'll see lots of tweets. And again, go to gtmdelta.com/reinvent. We're going to be posting a lot of the content after the event. It's a great chance for us to take what we've gotten in very long form, pull it down to the real stuff that matters, which is why we invite folks like Ethan and all the amazing sponsor supporters and community technologists who are here. Let's build a true practitioner-led community, practitioner-focused community, and let's get people connected so we can do amazing things together. With that, of course, make sure you follow. I'm at Disco Posse on Twitter. Easy way to find me. And I've got a podcast as well. So head on over to discopossepodcast.com and make sure you go to gtmdelta.com. Obviously not hard to see where I work. So since I've got logos all over the place, thank you for joining on AWS Day 2. With that, we will continue and we will see you tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time back on the stream.